when you see something like that, you're like, I wonder what they mean by the
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of SinCast is brought to you by NatureBox. Get 3 free snacks with your first order. Just visit naturebox.com/SinCast and use code SINS. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Holla.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Holla, holla.
Oh, double holla.
Hey,
Double holla. We are going into the Sweet 16 of this is the last April one, right?
I believe so, yeah.
April Madness, and then we'll get into May Madness later.
Yeah, almost at the end, baby.
Let the games begin!
This is madness. It's madness, I tell you, for the love of God!
One shining moment, it's all on the line.
Battle Royale!
The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
You're excited! Feel these nipples!
So this time we're getting into our Sweet 16 where it gets fucking harder.
Yeah, exponentially. Exponential money.
Oh my God, is it ever hard?
Okay. All that.
So let's get right into this.
Let's please do.
With our hardness. In the North region, we have the number 1 seed Jaws versus the 12 seed The Shawshank Redemption.
Holy shit.
We started you off with a really hard one off the bat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
Oh yeah.
I just saw Jaws 2 again.
Oh my
since
God.
The last time we recorded.
Oh my God.
If you want a fun exercise, I think would be to watch Jaws and Jaws 2 back to back, because it's day and night, and yet Roy Scheider is there through both of them as sort of your same protagonist, and you have to wonder how many times on the set of the second one he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" There's all of that. There's like 35 minutes out on the water where all the teenagers' boats are cobbled together because Jaws attacked them, and there's like a little kid who hit his head, and like. Roy Scheider's been fired, but he steals the police boat to go save his own kid, and it's just like everything that was good about the first one. It's just like, let's not do that.
In Jaws 2, do they say it's like Son of Jaws, or is it like they didn't really get the real one last time?
Now, I did not watch start to finish, but my impression was just, it's happening again.
Oh, okay. So it's just another shark.
Yeah, it's just another giant great white shark,
Which is the exact same thing.
Which is still 2 more times to come, I believe, right? We had,
There's 3 and there's 4. Yeah.
Yeah, because Mrs. Brody goes down to like Miami and the shark follows
I just know
her.
Dennis Quaid is in the third one. I think it's the third one, but Dennis Quaid's in one of them.
Well, and Michael Caine was in 4, I believe. Jaws the Revenge.
Poor Michael Caine.
Yeah. So we have 2 extremely excellent movies here. And I would I'd venture to say I'd probably watch both of these in a night somehow. It'd
be a long night.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, they wouldn't go together by any means, but this would be one of those things where if I had to choose, I'm like, okay, let's see both.
Yeah.
So I don't know where our criteria is on deciding between Jaws and Shawshank, because this is almost like there's several matchups like this where this is almost like a championship round.
Oh yeah,
this is like a final 2.
The final 2.
It could be. Maybe it comes down to this. All right, so you got, for the primary characters for Jaws, you've got Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss, and then the tertiary characters, super strong, Robert Shaw and Quint. Who's the main tertiary character in Shawshank Redemption? The warden?
Yeah, it'd be the warden. It'd be
probably.
Bob Gooten's warden.
Yeah.
Warden Norton.
Yeah. Either that or Haywood.
Yeah.
Alexander Dumbass.
But there's not like a super strong.
It's a supporting cast.
Yeah, it's a cast of characters.
Yeah, it's a giant group of character actors playing prisoners in this, and they all have their little things. Like James Whitmore has his little scene, and William Sadler has a couple notable scenes here and there. But nobody has like a rule. Gil Bellows has one big episode in the middle of it, but. Nobody is up to the level of Tim Robbins.
How does Gil Bellows feel? I mean, he's got like man, I looked into one of the greatest movies ever made, and the rest of my career is completely forgettable. Like,
Yeah.
what else has he been in?
I don't know.
Note?
I mean, like other than Ally McBeal.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that was the only other thing that I could think of that he was in that anybody would know. And yeah, he didn't really translate that into anything. And I'm wondering,
that's a prime fucking
I would
role.
love to know the story behind that.
Yeah,
was he one of those like, asshole actors, or was he somebody that just didn't fit a type that, he was handsome enough and he was decent enough, but nobody gave him I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah,
to
I
think
just now realized that because he's the lowest, maybe the lowest profile actor in a sizable role in this entire movie.
Is this something where we have to come up with something negative about one of these movies to maybe
No.
possibly think of what could be better out of this group?
I mean, well, here's the fun thing is that we're all going to eventually be pushed to our own final criteria on these tougher ones, and I think we're allowed to use different criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was listening to the most recent episode before we launched it, and you were talking about the Empire and Incredibles debate, which I'm still wounded over.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about which one of these two movies is aspiring to be more.
Mm-hmm.
And you could apply that standard in every one of these battles and pick your best judgment answer, and I'm not going to have a beef with that.
Right.
But you could also say cultural relevance or sheer entertainment value, or one of my favorites, how long did a movie stay with me and make me think about things and discuss things. And I just think that's the beauty of this whole fucking process is that, I mean, we're already way past madness. So we might as well just embrace it now. And you could use box office if you want. I ain't going to fucking care.
Yeah. Well, Jaws obviously crushes it in that situation.
Yes, indeed it does.
In fact, even in $1975, Jaws destroys Shawshank. But we don't look at it that way. And I don't know. I mean, it really is. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
Even as we're sitting here talking about, we could sit here and talk for 2 hours on the merits of both of these movies, probably.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm just trying to think of differences between the two. To me, and it's not saying that it's not the better movie, but Shawshank does have a few lulls, and Jaws doesn't.
Right.
Does it?
I mean,
it has any
Jaws
lulls.
has one major lull to me, and it's the part where they have they're shooting the harpoons, and there's like that moment where they're just sitting there waiting for it the buoys to show up.
Oh, when they're out in the water,
and and there's a point where there's that. It's playing that happy music while they're like, and they're like, what's going on? This, what's the happy part about this? I never understood what that was all about. But that's one moment where I'm sitting there going, okay, come on, Jaws.
Yeah, I guess there is that time where it gets a little boozy, where he's just kind of like, he's drinking the wine and everything, or he's drinking whiskey, and Richard Dreyfuss brings over this nice bottle of wine when he's coming to dinner, and he just pours the wine right into the whiskey. He's like, there you go.
Doesn't even say you're going to want to let that breathe. Like you're gonna want to let that breathe, and then he just starts pouring it. It's funny. I've become more of a wine snob as I've gotten into wine the last few years, but I'm still not that guy. I'm still opening my bottle and pouring within the same 5 seconds. I don't need to let my wine breathe and maybe have cat hair get in it. Of course.
Okay.
Cats. All right. So
I have a feeling that this vote is going to be entirely on feel.
Yeah.
Entirely on feel.
Yeah.
So what's our order?
It's me first, and I'm trying to poke holes, man. I think the library stuff. See, the library stuff is so rewarding though in Shawshank. That would be like the lull though, is when it just maybe goes on like a beat or two too long for me. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but I think Jaws from start to finish is just perfect, and I'm going to vote for that.
All right. Sorry, Jeremy. I'm going to go with Jaws on this one. And it's really just
I don't have any water bottles to throw.
It's a serious, feel type of thing.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I had a hard time even when Shawshank was against Goodfellas. I mean, that was a championship round in the first round to me. And
I was prepared to ride Shawshank to the end.
And I sort of felt bad that, that it came down to we're going to exit one of these movies in the first round. But yeah, it just based on pure feel, like you're saying, all the way through Jaws is pretty much perfection. Now, a lot of that is accidental perfection, as we know, because he wasn't able to show Bruce the shark as much as he wanted to. and it turned out to be a great thing for that movie. But it is a movie that actually has characters you care about. We talked about this before. It's a summer movie where characters actually matter. And the suspense is amazing, and the actual hunt is something that you get involved in. And yeah, in the end, I'm going to go with this one. It's by like the tiniest hair.
Yeah.
I saw that summer movie Passengers a couple days ago from last year, and I cared about Andy Garcia's character a lot.
I did. You are right to care about his character so much.
I was going to vote Shawshank. I'm still voting Shawshank. And my criteria basically came down to big thoughts, big, deep thoughts, and impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shawshank has had more and taught me more about humanity and others and in myself. And I think both, had great aspirations that were different but equal. Both succeeded tremendously well. But at the end of the day, Jaws is still a thriller about a killer shark that I'm not going to take home and apply too many life lessons from that movie. And maybe that's a stupid criteria. It doesn't fucking matter anyway, because Shawshank is already gone. IMDb's #1 rated movie of all time.
It is.
Bounced.
Sunk. Bitten. Chewed
Chomped.
upon. Chomped.
Mm-hmm.
Chomped.
Yes.
It's been toothered.
Yes.
It's been chommed.
It's a killer thriller.
I feel like half the listeners want Jaws and half the listeners want Shawshank.
Yeah, probably.
And there's probably at least one listener out there who still thinks like Goodfellas is in it.
Maybe that's next.
Yeah. So
wow,
one of those that you can't really. I mean, honestly, you could probably do this vote next week, and I'd be like, hey, you know what? I've talked myself into Shawshank.
We went balls deep, like right out the jump there.
Yes, we did.
Right out the junk.
Junk?
That's what Barrett meant. But then he said the right thing and said jump.
Oh, I'm half deaf.
That's all right.
You know this.
Yeah.
Because I heard you both vote for Shawshank a minute ago. So I'm elated right now.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because
All right.
I said something as simple as Jaws, and you got Shawshank out of that?
Jaws? Shank?
Jawshank.
Jaws?
I'm sure somebody has put that mashup together on YouTube.
They probably
Shawshank
have.
Basically,
Redemption.
every mashup conceived has been done at this point. It's the kind of thing where if you have to go Google, has this mashup been done before? Just assume it has and move on to a different mashup.
Yeah.
All right, give me another one that's going to
All
break
right.
my fucking heart.
All right. Also in the North region, the 3 seed Silence of the Lambs versus the 2 seed Die Hard.
Wow, interesting.
So
Now,
it
these
is
are-
a very interesting one, yes.
Two
closer-
enormous, iconic characters from these.
Yeah, and these are too close in era films, at least comparatively
Yeah,
speaking.
3 years apart.
Yeah, at least compared to most of these matchups. But again, two completely wildly different things. Like Anthony Hopkins, 100 years from now, will be remembered for this role in this movie, and it's maybe one of the greatest acting performances ever. Right?
Yep.
I mean, how you come off as creepy with as little screen time, and you've said it multiple times, Barrett, how he just lingers over the whole film, even on the scenes he's not in. I don't know how we're going to do this. This is really, like, I'm going to be legit depressed by the time we're done with this.
As it has been said before, even though Anthony Hopkins has about 9-10 minutes of screen time in this, it feels like he's in it the whole time. And that is a trick that is very hard to pull off. That's part Anthony Hopkins, it's part Jonathan Demme.
Mm-hmm.
Because they keep referring to Lecter, and like Lecter's mindset is infesting Clarice's mindset and everything, and she's going based on what he says. So a lot of the stuff that you see, a lot of the actions are because of Lecter in this.
I think this is a movie that could still be made today just because of that character, only because of that character. Because since this, and it is partially, if not greatly responsible for it, you got your Criminal Minds and you got your, all these FBI profiler stuff, Millennium, that short-lived TV show with Lance Hendrickson.
8 different CSIs.
Exactly.
3
all
different
this,
NCISs.
Yeah, it's all psychological profiles and everything. But I think in any movie that comes out that's tangentially related to that kind of thing, is mostly garbage because it's all procedural and done before. But I think if you had this character, and this is why Red Dragon and Hannibal was actually watchable.
Right.
It was only because of him.
Mm-hmm.
I give Ray Fiennes some credit on Red Dragon.
Oh, yeah,
he's
he was
sufficiently creepy in that. And Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Yeah.
who's one of the most uncomfortable death scenes I've ever seen on film, is in Red Dragon. Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Oh, God. He's like, oh, no. And now we got Die Hard.
Which has Reginald VelJohnson's best performance ever.
Oh, that's inarguable.
Yeah.
That's
And I
inarguable.
love Family Matters.
Family Matters.
Ah, yeah, sure you do. Messed it up.
I actually, my son played soccer right across the street from the Family Matters house in Chicago. And I would just, and it's like an old folks home now, and I would just go up to the steps every once in a while and snap pictures.
I had a friend try to compare Family Ties and Family Matters once and compared Urkel to Skippy Handelman.
Nice. Nice. I will say that it lays waste to his role in Ghostbusters, though. Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters. Pretty much his whole line. Hey, Ghostbusters. Maya wants to see you or some crap. But yeah, nobody, we've said this before, Bruce Willis, nobody thought that Bruce Willis was going to be a big action star. We knew him from Moonlighting.
Mm-hmm.
And as juror number something in The Verdict. That's all we knew from Bruce Willis.
Oh, nice.
I love this movie so much, and I'm sure there's nothing we can say about it that we haven't already talked about before, but I just love the fact that this is a building that you have a kind of a good idea of where everybody is all at once.
Yeah.
You know, and he tackles this problem not in a I need to slide down the elevator shaft and blow away all the bad guys and make sure I don't hit any friendlies at the same time type of way.
Right.
Which is what I believe we would see in an action movie all located in one tower in a movie in 2017.
Yeah,
If it
probably.
was a Michael Bay movie, it would be, how do I get down into that one level and shoot everybody? Whereas in this one, it's more about, he sort of takes notes. He kind of figures out how many people there are based on what they say over the radio. He's got that great scene where he's just on top of the elevator and he sends, the dude down with the Christmas hat and everything. And like they sit there and they talk and he's like sitting there scratching down names.
Yeah.
That's the shit, man.
Yeah,
that's not what you came to see, but that is a perfect thing to put in a movie so that you understand why he's doing what he's doing.
Well, and it makes you long for, more detective characters in movies to actually do some detective work, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that's his police street smarts coming through in the situation, and we even see the counterpoint. FBI, CIA guys who show up later who just want to blast everything with a helicopter and a machine gun, but he goes about it in such a smart way to pick them off piece by piece, to steal a radio, to overhear the thing about detonators, to wonder why Hans was on the roof. I just feel like you don't see that kind of smart stuff anymore, and even like Batman movies don't show us him doing detective work the way John McClane does in Die Hard.
Yeah.
Also, just yesterday, I saw the Friends episode where they watch Die Hard, and they're all like, Die Hard! Die Hard! And then Joey's like, and now I rented another movie you might enjoy, Die Hard 2. And Chandler looks at it and goes, that's Die Hard 1 again. And Joey's like, so let's watch it again. And they decide to watch it again because they love it so much.
By the way, here's a completely random note from the series Love that was on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
This is the type of shit I love. This is the type of shit that I would bring up and whatever. But the main character, Paul Rust, in that show, is talking to Gillian Jacobs in there, and he's like, I was watching Friends, and there was, they've seen Die Hard, they know what Die Hard is, and everything, and then Bruce Willis shows up to like, I don't know who he dates,
Rachel.
dates Rachel, and everything. Wouldn't they think like, hey, there's this guy that looks like Bruce Willis that's in here? They never bring it up.
An Ocean's 12 type of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was on 2 or 3 episodes. He's actually the dad of a student that Ross is dating at the college.
Huh.
And he's like all intimidating Bruce. Then he's dating Rachel, and she helps him unlock his emotions. And much like that Seinfeld episode, he can't shut it off. He's just crying about everything.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because I think this is almost the last part of expressive Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Because like he's actually like, after this, even in Die Hard 2 and starting at Pulp Fiction and even the whole 9 yards and stuff like that, he starts like shutting down this emotions. I just happened upon Heart's War the other day.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Oh my God. That he's just like mask-like. Like he's got those hooded eyes and he's just, looking, he's got the tough guy demeanor. But in Die Hard, he's acting and he's like emoting and he's like, that's the moonlighting thing is that kind of character is why people fell in love with him. And then it just became like this kind of just straight-laced, just kind of not nearly as fun to watch.
You could argue the more his action status went up, the more stoic his performances became, almost as though he felt convinced that's what an action hero does. In fact, what made him an action hero was being atypical, cracking
being
jokes.
the exact opposite. Yeah,
being so sarcastic. Die Hard is essentially perfect in my eyes. I really don't have anything negative I can say about it. I never thought I'd be comparing it to something like Silence of the Lambs. They're both perfectly iconic in their own right, but this is I have no idea what you guys are going to do. This is a complete toss-up for me.
Chris is first.
I'm first. I'm going Die Hard. And again, this is I said that quickly, but this is another one that I had to go on feel with. I feel like in this one, it's just the action is so smart and the performances are so well drawn out. We've talked a ton about Alan Rickman and Hans Gruber. Basically, his villain is just as iconic, almost as iconic as Hannibal Lecter.
Yes,
because
arguably,
as far as people trying to emulate what he did, it may be more. I mean, I think people on the street mostly know Hannibal Lecter over Hans Gruber, but I think his performance is something that everybody tried to emulate. They all tried to do that afterwards. But just because, and I just think this movie is, perfect in every way. There's not anything in Die Hard where you're just going, well, that is just the shittiest thing ever or whatever. Right. Silence of the Lambs, I don't think there's anything really in that I get upset at either. There's, the stupid things with the guy jerking off and throwing his semen and all that. I mean, that's
Miggs being Miggs,
that's
baby.
Miggs being Miggs.
You know his name?
Oh, yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with that. I know the name of the semen throwing guy. Silence of the Lambs. Trivia question.
There's a couple of things in there where you're like, there's a little bit of age to Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
A little bit. Because I do believe that, I don't know. We've talked about this before. Do we think that Buffalo Bill's condition in that movie is being treated with 90s kind of eyes, or is that like an absolute like?
I think that's a character trait more than it is the way that they're treating it.
Okay,
because he is using, and it's based on an actual serial killer. I think it was Ed Gein that used women's skin as his clothes because he wanted to become a woman. This is the only way that he was able to do it in his warped mind, but he was still going to be a killer no matter what. It just happened to be.
Well, and to be fair, Hannibal Lecter, when he's talking about this guy, he doesn't have offer any judgments or anything like that.
That's what I love about that character, by the way, is that he is otherwise normal on the outside. He's ethereal, but he's otherwise just like he don't give a fuck what your background is or whatever. If he is targeting you, he's going to eat your spleen.
Right. So ultimately, I think there's just the slight bit of ridiculousness in Silence of the Lambs and the slightest bit of age to where going up against Die Hard, which is 3 years older than this one, where I don't see much age in Die Hard. The only thing in Die Hard that dates it is the gas prices when the camera goes
I wonder what it is.
It's like 90-something cents.
Really
That's the only thing that really dates it. There's no real like references or anything like that. It's great action movie. So that's what I'm going with.
All right.
Well, I'm also going Die Hard. It is kind of that arbitration thing. I'm looking at Silence of the Lambs and seeing a few more flaws and gaps than I see when I look at Die Hard. Never really bought Jodie Foster's accent completely in that movie.
Yeah.
And that is the nittiest of nitpicks. But I buy all the accents in Die Hard. No, I'm not actually making this on accents.
You bought Hans Gruber's German accent.
Or jogging scenes. I just think Die Hard is a 0.1% better achievement, closer to perfection. I don't know what you were going to vote. I'm sorry I took it away from you.
I was going to vote Die Hard just because there's little eccentricities that I don't know where they came from in Silence of the Lambs. Like the accent every once in a while will go over the top with Jodie Foster. And then you've got that crazy line when Hannibal Lecter's meeting with the senator from Memphis, and she's walking away and is like, "Senator, love your suit." It's like, what the fuck is that, man? Like, that doesn't have any place in this. But he had to get that extra, 20 seconds of screen time.
Yeah.
There. But Die Hard unanimous.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, man, this is a dude-centric region right here. You got your Jaws and your Die Hard. It's three guys. This is not like people voting The Notebook or something like that to be the next level.
Well, also The Notebook is trash.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You should have named something good.
Either way, if we had picked Shawshank,
in terms of endearment,
if we'd picked Shawshank and Silence of the Lambs, it would have been sort of dude-centric.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of dude-centric because we are dudes.
We're
We're sorry
dudes.
about that. Anyway, as you may have surmised, that leaves an Elite 8 matchup of Jaws and Die Hard.
Oh, it's chalk, baby.
Holy shit.
We're going to be down to 8 teams after today, right?
That's right.
We are.
God, this is brutal.
On to the East region, where we go number 1 seed Children of Men versus the 12th seed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Wow. This one's gonna hurt.
It is going to hurt.
This one's going to hurt a lot.
Wow. These are both very emotional movies.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And movies that excel in addition to visually, but with concept and with performances. Like the things that Children of Men does really, really right, so does Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah.
But after our last talk about Eternal Sunshine, I was so wrapped up in it, I went home and realized I didn't have a copy, bought it, asked my wife if she'd ever seen it. She said no, and I showed it to her. It's just, it's so feely.
Did she like it?
Oh yeah, she liked it. I don't think she was quite as blown away as I was. But it's not an easy movie to get your head around on one viewing.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of technical questions she was asking me that had nothing to do with the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first time I watched this movie, I completely forgot. Like I said, I watched this movie recently, last month, and I forgot how it opens and how they meet each other, which is really the second time in the beginning of the movie. And it's got such this odd time structure. This movie came out during the time period where I was in movie theaters, like most of these.
Yeah.
And when you watch a movie like this late at night, you're not going to really catch everything that you should by the end of it. I did remember leaving it going, man, I love that movie. But there were still some questions in my head just going, I didn't quite get a lot of some of the stuff. But yeah, this movie is, like I said, it's better than I thought it was when I watched it the second time.
Well, they're both visual achievements.
Mm-hmm.
You'd never seen anything, both of these, you've never seen anything like it.
I agree.
I have never seen anything like those one take, set pieces that we keep talking about, especially that end part where they're walking through the rubble and everything. And then I certainly have never seen anything like the visuals in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And it makes me kind of miss, I'm sure there's high concept shit out there that is on par with this, in recent stuff, but I can't remember anything that made me as floored as this shit, from top to bottom, from head to heart.
Yeah, and if you're just talking visuals, I definitely think there's some stuff in Doctor Strange that wowed me the way Eternal Sunshine and Inception visuals wowed me. I don't think the film has the sustenance that Eternal Sunshine does, or even Inception. But visually speaking, that's the only thing I can think of recently that really kind of wowed me in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But Children of Men, this guy was messaging us on Twitter yesterday, I think. Finally got around to watching Children of Men. Holy cow. Holy balls. What a film. I've had that 3 or 4 times in the last week. Children of Men seems to be the one, even though I don't think we've hyped it more than others in this podcast, it seems to be the one I get the most feedback on when people double down and decide, okay, I'm going to watch what you recommended. It seems to be Children of Men more often than not for some reason.
I know. It's so underseen, right?
It really is. But at the end of the day, if all we accomplish with this podcast in a year and a half is that more people see Children of Men, I'm calling that a net win.
Absolutely.
It's that good of a film.
Yeah.
I said it before. 25 weeks ago. I'll say it again. I think it's the best movie made since the year 2000.
And then after the success that he's had, Alfonso Cuarón's had with Gravity and stuff like that, you would think that there would be a lot of people going back to this and saying, now maybe they have. We just haven't, because the movie is 11 years old now, we just don't see a lot of people talking about it. But I don't really run into a lot of people who are like, yeah, that movie's great or anything like that.
It may have the same titling problem as Shawshank Redemption. You know, I mean, it's an innocuous title. I remember the poster wasn't anything, you know, that was eye-catching or anything.
They should have
like
called it Baby Saver.
Yeah.
They should have called it Edgar Wright's Baby Saver.
Yeah. And had like Ben Stiller and his like, you know, whatever he was in Tropic Thunder at the beginning where he's doing what is it?
Simple Jack?
No, the beginning of the movie. Scorcher. When he's in that garb.
And no one saw it coming more times.
That same look he gives when he's looking up into the sky and everything, that Ben Stiller look. But Children of Men, I can't remember what I had number 1 in 2006, but it was in the top 5, I'm sure. That was one of my like great first New York great movie experiences was when I was living there in that 3-year period. Children of Men was one of those movies that came out going, oh my God, that movie's so awesome. How many people can I tell about this right now? You know? But yeah, it just never really has gotten, as far as I know, it hasn't gotten that great word of mouth where everybody talks about it and says, you know what, I didn't see that when it came out.
Because it wasn't called Baby Saver.
Yeah. But you're right. Children of Men sounds too basic.
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, what is this about again?
Well, having seen it, I think it's perfect. But in terms of a title trying to pull someone in, it's not a very good title. But I think what the movie is, I think it's a very perfect title for at least you see where they got it.
Yeah. I love that part where he's like, who's the father? And she's like, well, I'm a virgin. I don't know why I give her a British accent. But so she's just like... but she's like, you know, I'm a virgin, and he's like, really? And she's like, oh, fuck you. You know, I don't know who it was.
Yeah,
you know, it was you know, one of dozens of guys or something like that.
Yeah,
but, it's funny. Yeah. It's funny. It's got humor in it. Michael Caine's character has a lot of humor, and man, it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, I love Michael Caine in this movie because he does add so much humor, but he also adds a lot of the heartache at the end. At least the end of his character's portion of the film, it's really sad.
Yeah,
but he's a charmer there in the beginning. First scene with him is just gold.
And both of these movies have that same type of sci-fi type of thing that I think we all in here like, where it's not overtly sci-fi. Right. It looks like the real world on the outside, but there's this one technology or one aspect of life that's going on that is totally sci-fi. You know, I think, you know, Children of Men is not something that's too far off, really. I think there's something that could happen, like it, you know, some unexplained thing that happened.
Sure.
Like, I mean, you know, if there could be one of the, like, you know, like the bees. You know, there was a big thing about the bees for a long time.
Not the bees.
Yeah, not the bees. There was a, you know, we don't know what it's this colony disorder type of thing. Then they found out, oh, it's because of all the poison that they were throwing down in the air, and that's the reason why the bees were dying. And they're like, oh, we need to stop throwing that poison down there. What if there was some chemical that we just used every day? They didn't have tests on it for 10, 20 years or whatever.
Or even something like Zika.
Right.
That causes birth defects so rampantly. What if there was a pandemic that did something to cause us to not be able to give birth? It's a believable enough premise.
Right. And I think the same thing with Eternal Sunshine, even though I think that's even more sci-fi than what Children of Men is going on. But I mean, even that, I mean, we were talking about this recently, talking about the, you know, putting the thing on our head and like downloading memories and all that. That's a reality right now. Yeah. Not memories, but like motor functions and stuff like that. I don't think it's too far. I mean, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen those like, where the computer can map out what your dream was.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Kind of like not like a perfect picture or anything, but just enough of something to make you go, whoa. Anyway, go find that.
That's awesome.
Both of these movies, what we're praising is the fact that they use sci-fi as a step to examine greater humanity issues. It's not about look at our lasers and look at our awesome badass Batmobile future cars we design,
right,
or the killer bots in the sky. It's not about that. It's about we're in the future and here are the differences, but really I want to talk about humanity. Both of these films do that.
Yeah,
they're going to be very hard to choose.
Oh yeah, so
you get to start.
You get to start.
Children of Men.
They're
both great, but I think Children of Men is the best movie made since 2000. Thank God The Matrix came out in 99. So I have to amend that statement. It is just top to bottom a home run in concept, in execution, acting, script, action. Those one takes are jaw-dropping to the point where I often rewind them to watch them again immediately. It's Children of Men for me all the way. Sorry, Jim Carrey.
I think you're right. They both have a firm grasp on humanity, but I think one is more grounded in character. And I think it's Eternal Sunshine, and I'm going to vote for that.
Wow.
This is 1 and 1A for me, but I think one, and it may vacillate back and forth, but I think one to me is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Concept, characterizations, acting, writing, man, like it checks every single box for me, and they're both great, but that's my vote.
Wow. So, yeah, I think both of these movies do something well that the other doesn't, or whatever. Like, you're right. I think Eternal Sunshine does have better characterization, so you can really like live with those guys and everything. And it's got a great little concept to it, and all the little side things that are happening in this. The Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Dunst thing, and the Elijah Wood and all that. These are all like fun little things that Kaufman puts in a screenplay, and then Michel Gondry shoots this in such a way that you're just like being taken through this whirlwind or whatever.
It's a dream.
It really is.
It's like it's got those edges of the periphery. It's spotlit to where you can't see around there, and that makes it almost claustrophobic but beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. My vote's Children of Men. That movie is exactly almost what Jeremy is saying, and if there's a chance that we could be really digging in on the next round if something happens, but I agree. Children of Men is at least one of the top 10 movies of this new millennium and everything. And I would be very hard pressed to go up against it now. And Eternal Sunshine, I think it may even be in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
I just think Children of Men is just a slight bit higher. And we were talking about like action scenes. I've talk about that every time about Children of Men. The suspense, the way they shoot it, everything, it's exhilarating all the way through. And so I'm going to go with that movie here.
All right. Well, another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's a massacre.
It's all going very fast now at this point.
Okay, so this one's going to be super hard for me. I don't know who's first vote on this.
It'll be me.
It'll be you on this one. And who will be last?
Jeremy.
Jeremy will be last. Okay. I watched these two movies yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
To sort of gauge what I would feel about a matchup like this, because this is definitely one of our hardest ones, and we just went through a couple of hard ones. The 6 seed There Will Be Blood against the 2 seed City of God.
Yeah.
Wow. You watched both of those movies yesterday?
I did.
Wow, that was a heavy day.
It was a heavy day.
Yeah.
There Will Be Blood I had to watch in like some pieces because I had all this other bullshit. But and then I watched City of God late last night. And yeah, here are two movies that are so ridiculously excellent that by the end of it I was just sort of going, oh, what how am I going to pick between these two movies?
So, without answering your pick, did it give you any clarity to have watched them both yesterday?
I think it did slightly, very slightly. I think one. Oh my God, I don't want to give away anything that I sort of thought about during this, but both of these movies, I mean, I think There Will Be Blood is definitely trying to be an American masterpiece. I think Paul Thomas Anderson basically from the start to finish was sitting there going, I want to make the great, like just like a great American novel, I want to make the great American movie.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he went for, and I think he hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, City of God was going for that too. They just missed wildly.
Yeah.
About Brazil.
Yeah. They were trying to be
Damn it.
so American. Let's go ahead and vote this.
Their first problem was the casting because
Yeah.
they didn't cast any Americans.
But City of God, it has a lot of elements of Godfather. It has a lot of elements of Pulp Fiction in it. And the way it tells its story is so unique. It has this. It'll tell you a shade of the story. Like at the beginning of it, it's the Tender Trio, and it's these three wannabe hoods basically who don't have any idea what they're doing, and they carry around this little, with this little Dice is who they call him in the first thing, or little Dice or little Dice or whatever, and Benny are those two kids who are hanging around this Tender Trio crew, and like. You see what happens to the Tender Trio, and you see some like elements of what you'll see later in that first story, and then it'll go, all right, now here's the story of Lil Zay, and now here's the story of the apartment, and here's the story of, and I just love how it just keeps throwing these little wedges in. It's not linear at all.
No.
And great characters, and then we've talked about it before. Benny, like they make this point to say he's the coolest hood in the City of God. He is. You want to be that guy. You want to be Benny. Now, all during the whole movie, you see traces of what's going to be a conflict with his character and Lil Zay, where Lil Zay wants to just kill somebody right off the bat, and Benny's always the one who comes over. Oh, no, just kick him out, man. He doesn't need to be here anymore. Blah blah blah. He learned his lesson. You don't need to kill him. All that. He's always trying to be that wall between, and you can see why he's such an important character to the whole thing that happens in this movie.
And this is the slummiest slum that you can think of.
Oh yeah,
everything. It's crazy. The body count seems like it's pretty pronounced in this movie, just because especially when it becomes that big gang war.
Yep.
But man, they will off a motherfucker like nothing.
Yeah.
And that is fucked up, man.
It really is.
Like what's great about this is when Rocket finally makes it out of the slum and starts working at the newspaper, it's like you've been living in that world, in that slum the whole movie, that you forget about the rest of the world. Like you come up for air and you're like, shit.
I know it.
And he's like, he comes from this slum and she's like, are you serious? Like
there is this oppressiveness that you get all the way through the movie, like the. Out in that, like, out of middle of nowhere slum place where they come from to the city part of the slum. And when he goes to that newspaper office, it's like, whoa, this is so different. And when he spends the night with the reporter, she's like, hey, you need to have a hot shower. And he's like, you ever had a hot shower? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And he's
crazy.
Yeah. And he's like, all we do is like heat up the kettle or something like that. And that's how they have a warm bath. And like, it's just, oh my God, this was, that movie gets just down and dirty, man. And, it's so well put together. And again, I love the knockout Ned thing, and we brought up it before, but the knockout Ned thing is, why didn't that fucker kill me? And then it goes to Lil Zay and he goes, hey, why didn't I kill that fucker?
What's funny about Knockout Ned is that he only appears like, it seems like 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Yeah.
And he becomes a central fucking
character. That's the way that story is told,
Yeah.
because he's first introduced with Rocket and his friend on a bus, and Rocket is sitting there like contemplating on, well, should I be a hood too? Like, it'd be easy to knock over this bus, and this guy, you knock it now, it's got this drawer of money in front of him. He's just sitting there like, putting all these dollars in there and everything. And then, you find out like there's 2 times where they think they're going to steal or whatever. And they just come out going, I couldn't do it, man. They were just too cool.
Yeah.
They're just too cool. Yeah, that movie is just got everything going on, and There Will Be Blood has got everything going on, and it's just a hard pick. I know that you're not you haven't seen There Will Be Blood more than like the one time, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that movie is hard to get into for a lot of people. I mean, when Daniel Plainview is not like a likable guy at all.
No.
But you see his character at the beginning of this, man. He is how driven that guy is. How long was he looking for like the silver or whatever it is he's digging for at the beginning? I can't remember what exactly it was.
Yeah, it was silver.
It was silver. How long has he been? You see his scraggly ass beard.
Yeah.
And like how long he's probably been
by himself.
And then he breaks his leg and crawls over miles probably to go and get it weighed and get, I believe the paper says he gets $3,000, which is probably like in 1898. It's, crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
The next time we see him, he's searching for oil. It's like 4 years later and he's got a crew.
Yeah.
I just love that. I love the opening of that movie. It's so well done.
He does have an arc. I think I mentioned when we talked about this movie initially, I thought that he was definitely using his son, his adopted son, HW, as a chip to get in. But when you watch it again, I watched it a couple of days ago, actually, and he really loves that kid.
Yeah,
like he
definitely
really does. He's his only tie to humanity, I would say.
Absolutely.
Because his brother, his supposed brother, he starts to like almost open up a little bit, and then that goes to shit, and after that, he's just off the cliff.
Yeah.
And then after he sends HW away, he's way off the cliff. And by the end of it, you see the perils of wealth like you've never seen before. The guy's completely isolated. He has nobody. He has all the money in the world. He has all the space in the world, but he has nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so entrenched in his shitty life that he thinks everything he says is right.
Yeah.
He thinks everything he's done, the ends justify the means, even though the ends are shitty.
If he's challenged in the least bit, he always has to go and try to prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he does, the reason why in the last time when we were talking about this movie, and I compared it to She's All That, there was the part where I knew though that he really cared for his HW is when he's going through that, I've abandoned my child and all that, where he's going through the machinations of saying, I've abandoned my child for Paul Dano, who's punishing him, basically. When he says, I abandoned my boy, that's when he really actually breaks.
Yeah.
And everything else was surface up until that point. It's amazing, really, how many fake relatives are in this movie for him. Yeah. That's his, sort of his de facto son after the guy dies at the beginning of the movie. And he treats him horribly. His brother who shows up treats him obviously very horribly. And then there's a point where Paul Dano even says, you're my brother, because they're actually related through marriage at that point. Mm-hmm. And he obviously gets treated very poorly. Yeah. I really actually, after watching a movie like There Will Be Blood, I want to talk about it for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you can dig from his character and the way this story is told and everything like that. I could go on forever about like all these little things about sexual repression.
Yeah.
And just about his religious sort of the way he looks at religion and everything. He knows that Paul Dano's a charlatan, and Paul Dano knows he's a charlatan, and they know each other. They know that they know. It's crazy. There was one thing too. I had the subtitles on this one, and I didn't notice before, but I know that there's the scene where Paul Dano goes up to him and says, "Where's my money, Daniel?" And Daniel like beats him up and throws him in that like sludge or whatever. Yeah. And like, so later on after that, Paul Dano's at the kitchen table, just like nothing but mud all over his face. And he's talking to his dad, and he's like, you are a stupid man, Abel. You are a stupid man. And he like beats up his dad basically over it and everything. But there's a part in there where in the subtitles, I didn't notice this during you think at some point either he's given up on this $5,000 that Daniel owes him in the church, or they somehow, some way there's going to be an agreement or whatever. by the end of that, I've abandoned my child scene or whatever. There's a point where Dano says something like, and he is still has $5,000 he owes this church or whatever. he's just kind of randomly says that or whatever. So yeah, two movies that are absolutely incredible.
Yep.
I would, and I have watched these back to back. I would, if he had them sitting in front of you, I would not pick one or the other. Which one would you pick first?
I would watch them simultaneously to better enjoy each of them.
That's correct.
Well, man, we were talking about in the Untouchables where De Palma's directing his ass off. Like Paul Thomas Anderson, I think this is probably his best directed movie. As I've watched it again, I don't know if it's my favorite one between Boogie Nights and this, but he goes for it, which is crazy. Having said that, and I love this movie, but it took a little bit of shine off when I watched it recently, and I'm going City of God all the way. That is a shocking movie to me because, like I think all of us, when I first started watching it, I was like, "What the shit is this?" And then it became this gorgeous thing that I had never seen before.
This is going to be unanimous because City of God is my pick.
Woohoo!
When watching these two movies back to back, I know that if you were to pick strictly on what movies is trying to ascend to a higher plane, There Will Be Blood beat City of God. But City of God has so much more fun, more humor, a complex story. It's got all those fun little, even though they're kind of like the one about the kid who joins the gang just so that he can kill his father's murderer or whatever. Right. That sort of comes back as one of these, it's that's not really contrived in a way. Like it's a cool little thing. Like at the beginning, he's like, I'm just want to have a revenge on my father's murderer. And you see Knockout Ned look up at him like, that's a crazy thing for a kid to say. You don't know that it was him.
Right.
But there's so many little coincidences and everything that I like in it. The story is just so well done. I think if this movie had come out in a year that wasn't Lord of the Rings Return of the King year, it might have gotten a little bit more Oscar recognition too. It certainly should have won editing over Return of the King.
And restraint. The Academy Award for restraint.
I have often said that this is my favorite movie of the new millennium. And before I go into the next matchup, Jeremy, what are you going to say?
City of God. These are both, interestingly, movies I watched late because you guys liked them so much. And I liked them both a lot. But City of God was the one that I was like, I want to watch that 12 more times very soon. Yeah. And I think there is a little bit, like, I don't get into The Master, and I know you guys both like that movie, but that movie's just a little bit of a brick wall for me. And I get a 10% version of that in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah,
it's just a little hard for me to get sucked in. And City of God, other than that 10-minute documentary opening that we all say feels a little weird, takes no time to suck me in. I mentioned last time, I'm not even conscious of the fact I'm reading subtitles.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great. It's great, and it wins.
Yoo-hoo! So, Jeremy and I are going to be at war next week, and it all depends on Barrett.
What is it, Matrix versus Back to the Future or some shit?
It's Children of Men versus City of God, which we both said the same things about each movie.
Oh, you're talking about the next round.
About being,
we are. Well, then I'll leave it up to Barrett, who liked both of those movies enough that he could go either way.
And that's another tough one.
It's definitely going to have "of" in the title.
And
it's going to be
it's the one that we always confuse, right? Like City of Men was a thing, and
Children of God.
Yeah, Children of a Lesser God.
That's right.
But Children of Men and City of God, I am going to watch Children of Men before that matchup.
Yeah,
so that I can sort of refresh my memory on that. But that will be the Elite Eight matchup there. We have been talking about Nature Box quite a bit, and there's a good reason for that. It's awesome.
We love them.
It's delicious. And now, when you do go to naturebox.com/SinCast, you can see our favorite snacks.
That's right, baby.
Ours handpicked by Chris, Barrett, and I as the snacks we would most recommend you try first. But I haven't had a bad one yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same here. Every time we've gotten a new box that has come in here,
Yeah.
I've tried everything, and they're all like, wow, these are just amazing, mind-blowing type of snacks. I would never, ever eat some of the stuff.
Right.
If you put the like ingredients next to each other, I'd be like, nope, no. But because Nature Box is on there, I'll try it out. And it's, this is actually delightful.
Listen to this lineup here. We got white cheddar caramel popcorn.
Oh,
Say that 5 times fast.
That shit is awesome.
Preach.
Yes.
Preach. We got vanilla bean wafers.
Oh, my
Come
God.
on.
Now it's even better.
Listen. And then we got the sourdough cheddar pretzels.
Yeah,
Which
come on.
nobody can resist.
Okay, my last box that my wife and I got,
Mm-hmm.
we got 9 snacks.
Oh, my God.
2 of them were sourdough cheddar pretzels. I swear to God, they were both gone in 24 hours.
Oh, man.
My wife had none of them.
Oh, my God.
And there are still unopened snacks from that delivery in our cupboard. But I tore through it's like crack. They're so freaking good. I have to like pour them into a little tiny shot glass to try and portion control them so I don't eat too many at once.
The way people drink alcohol, you're actually like
Yes,
pouring it.
exactly. I'm doing a shot of sourdough pretzels just to make sure I don't do the whole bag in a sitting. I did try the new strawberry lemonade fruit stars.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have had a chance to
I
have
haven't had a
those yet,
chance.
but they are delightful.
Nice.
And I've seen a bunch more pictures on Twitter in the last few days of people who've been ordering Nature Box and starting their day with Nature Box and
Nice.
sharing photos of their bags and their snacks on the way to work and whatnot. And Nature Box sometimes chimes in on Twitter, and it's just one big happy family.
It's good stuff, man.
It
I'll
is
tell you
good
what,
stuff.
starting your day, this granola, the stuff, I don't know what your take is on granola.
Oh,
But granola goes with everything. It's like the ketchup of healthy snacks. Like you pour that on your yogurt, you pour that on your cereal, chew half a banana, and then just dip the rest into granola.
It
You're going to
adds
be fine.
a tasty crunch
Yes,
to
it
everything.
does. It tasty
Yes,
crunch.
that's right.
And if you go to naturebox.com/SinCast, you get 3 free snacks with your order.
Three
pretty
free snacks.
That's right.
That
That's right.
is amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
Mhm.
I mean, anything you order, I really have a hard time believing you're going to hate it. And even Nature Box doesn't believe you're going to hate it. They will replace it for free. So,
Yep.
I mean, basically no risk here.
And you can even get our box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can get our box of
Get up in that box.
selected snacks, and they're all awesome. They're
Yes.
all we all swear by them.
That's right.
Yes, we give them all 2 thumbs up. Had to remember how many thumbs we have. The one last thing I wanted to say about Nature Box is that because you were talking about the pineapple last time.
Oh, those are so good.
I was telling you how much my wife loves those.
Mhm.
So I just started ordering any of the dried fruit snacks that they had. So we got some mangoes, we got some peaches. She loves it. It's
Mhm.
like the best dried fruit she's ever had. And I can't get my hands on it. Of course, I'm hoarding things from her too. So called marriage for a reason. People.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where like you just accidentally go to some one place in the house and there's just happens to be something hidden behind, like a mantelpiece or like a secret room.
It's a secret room
You know,
full
like
of
like somebody accidentally pulls like, you know, the 10 Commandments out of the bookcase, and it's like, ooh, a whole secret room opened up in our house. Oh, look at all this stash of Nature Boxes behind here. That's crazy.
that there.
Yeah. No, so weird.
All right, so the URL, go to naturebox.com/SinCast, enter the promo code SINS. We have our own fancy promo code, and you get 3 free snacks with your first order.
That's SINS.
That's right.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Can't spell sins without sin.
Jeremy's iron.
Jim's iron.
On to the South region, where we have the number 1 seed, Schindler's List, versus the 5 seed, The Untouchables.
Oh, wow.
Now, I also watched Schindler's List over the weekend.
Oh.
Ooh, you were busy.
This was my first time seeing Schindler's List since 1993.
wow.
I've seen parts of it since 1993. I just never have popped it in and watched it from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did it this time. It's been 24 years since I've seen it all the way
Wow.
through. Obviously, super excellent. There's not anything that has been said about it that is wrong, as far as, you know, people heaping on a praise on it and everything. It's a movie that is 3 hours and 15 minutes long.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel that way. Like somehow, some way he's got that paced just right where like after an hour, you're like, okay, this feels like this can go on for a couple more hours.
Mm.
It doesn't really feel like, you know, oh, it's about to, you get to that hour mark and you're like, this will be an end in about 30, 40 minutes or whatever. It'll be perfect. Movie is beautiful. The Blu-ray that I have of this movie, the cinematography is gorgeous. It's black and white, but it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do we want to say about these movies?
Oh boy. I don't have much I want to say because I'm ready to vote and I don't really want to talk about it much. Barrett?
2 amazing directorial feats here.
Yeah.
Very different, obviously. 2, this is not a fair comparison, but reality-based, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, man, it's a cliche at this point based on a true story. But I think when you have that sort of resonance, when you have that tie to reality, it makes the stakes seem a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
Even though The Untouchables is more of a retrofitted, I would say almost a little bit cartoony version of this. And Schindler's List is so grounded in reality. And the use of the black and white, like you said, man, is really, when you can use black and white in something this expansive, it's an amazing feat, right?
Yeah. I don't think, even though a lot of people may have had Color Purple in the back of their minds when Schindler's List came out, not quite sure I did when this movie came out, and I was not prepared for Spielberg to be able to knock this out of the park.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was very used to, as a kid, very used to all the stuff he'd come out with, Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T. I was very used to those movies. And then I think I'd even seen stuff like Always and Empire of the Sun and all that, but I just never thought of Spielberg as a director who took on material like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there, you can see some conflict a little bit in him when he's doing this movie, because there's a bit of a, and this has been said before, I believe, about this movie. There are some moments in Schindler's List where he looks like he's trying to make this exciting and riveting, but he's conflicted because you don't want to make this exciting and riveting.
Right.
This is especially in the scene where it's the liquidation of the ghettos.
Oh yeah.
That scene where everybody's being kicked out of their house and all that, and like they get the initial, like, most of the group that's like, all right, we're leaving, we're getting out of here. But then of course there's a lot of people who are hiding, and he makes that sort of a suspense thing where there are people like all sorts of places in this. One guy's like taped under his bed. There's like a whole group of people like in a closet or an attic or something like that. And of course, like, once the camera goes away, you just start hearing blasting and everything. And like, and then there's a scene like right outside of it, because Ray Fiennes at the beginning of the scene as this really like just unbelievable speech where he's talking about 600 years ago the Jews came down to Poland and they became world class in education and all this. Tonight that all of that comes to an end.
Yeah.
And so he's outside like at night, because they've sat there and waited up till the nighttime.
Yeah.
Because they know they're hiding in there.
Yeah.
And so there's all this, shooting going on. Ray Fiennes is outside talking with his men and everything. And like in the background, you just see nothing but like flashes of bullets just in the windows. And it's another type of thing where Spielberg's like, he's right on the edge there where he's making it just a little bit too much of an action movie, but he's still like, I want you to know the horrible, he's conflicted. You can tell he's so conflicted making this movie.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to be ashamed of. So,
I also love how much Schindler just totally owns Ray Fiennes, like in the mental battle, the relationship where he like, I mean, he basically owns. He's terrified of this guy, as he should be. But he starts with that whole "there's more power in pardoning than executing," and then he's wormed his way into Ray Fiennes' character's life as one of his confidants to the point where he can kiss that woman on the lips at that party, and Rafe goes to bat for him.
Yeah.
And says he's a man, he'd had a bunch of drinks, it was a woman.
You should have seen this woman. And he's like, he's like talking about there's an infestation going on among the German soldiers. It's like the Jews, they infest your mind, blah, 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 that type of thing. I was struck mainly on this new viewing of it, of how masterful he is with everybody. It's not just Amon. It's at the very beginning, he's laying the groundwork. He kind of knows where things are going. And at the beginning of a party, at the beginning of the Schindler's List, nobody knows who Schindler is. Mm-hmm. By the end of it, he's dancing, he's taking pictures with everybody, and there's one guy who comes in at the end. He's like, and the guy's like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "It's Oscar Schindler." Yeah. Like everybody knows at this point, or whatever. And this guy lays the groundwork for what he's going to do. Now, here's one thing that confused me a little bit about the last time we talked about this movie, and watching it, I wasn't quite sure where to go with this, but he starts this off as pure business, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think I went into this the first time thinking he just kind of had an idea of what he wanted to do, and so like all this like business stuff was just a front. And it doesn't turn really into a front until the one woman comes in and says this is a haven for everybody, and she asks for the 2 people that she wants to get onto his list and everything, and that's when he comes in and he's like, it's a haven, and all that to Ben Kingsley. That's when he finally turns around and says, you know what, this is actually, I can do some good. Of course, he's also had the moment where he's on the horse and he's looking out at all the like horribleness that's going on, and there's the one girl in red that he follows around that eventually by the end of it is like being carted off dead. You can see the change in him as this movie goes along. That's why that movie is super excellent.
I agree, and I've talked about this before with Clooney in Three Kings or DiCaprio in Blood Diamond. Characters that start out selfish and end up selfless. It's one of my favorite, most satisfying character arcs, and I do think the beginning of Schindler's List, it's purely self-motivated. I can see what's coming, what's best for me and my monetary interests. And then he ends up stumbling into this position. And over time, I think a lot of it has to do with that relationship he forms with Ben Kingsley. Yeah. And then, he begins to grow a conscience and then care less and less about the actual money to that breakdown at the end where he's like, I could have saved one more person with this, and one more person with this. And that has become all he cares about. And I think if we didn't have that arc, it would just be a historical drama. Yeah. But that arc is what makes it powerful, that he did not begin the film on some kind of crusade to save Jewish people. He found himself there after seeing what happened to them.
And Kingsley's like, you saved 1,000, 100-something people or whatever. You've saved generations. And he's like, yeah, why did I need this car? Why did I need this car? I could have sold him on this car. He would have gotten it. The movie's way better the second time that I've watched it. And of course, when I first watched it, I was 16. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that have changed in me since I watched that movie all the way through. So anyway, let's vote. I don't think it's going to be much of a contest. Schindler's List for everything that we just said.
I'm going to say a qualifier. And then I'm going to give my vote. All right. I personally, Jeremy, have reached a point where I'm no longer going to vote for Schindler's List just because of its importance.
Right.
And I hope that is not seen as me being some kind of anti-Semitic bastard.
Nope. Oh, I don't think so.
But my vote is for Schindler's List.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. There's going to be a point where Schindler's List is going to go up against even harder than this. I think The Untouchables is sort of as great as that movie is. I mean, it snuck into the Sweet 16.
I think so.
Kind of. I mean, it's one of those type of movies. And to go up against this, it's tough. It's really tough for it to move on after this for just the importance part of it. But if you're talking about everything being right in a movie, I mean, we've talked about it before. If Schindler's List wasn't well made in every other aspect, if it was just the weight, I don't think we would be talking about it.
Well, and it wouldn't even carry the weight.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a
So there's going
film.
to be a point where possibly Schindler's List runs up against something that we like better.
Won't be Shawshank. God damn it.
It won't be Shawshank. Can you imagine that? Schindler's List versus Shawshank?
Oof.
Oh, what a vote that would have been.
Well.
I'll make it unanimous. Schindler's List. I agree. Yeah, The Untouchables. It's interesting because it had good matchups. I think
Still a
did.
better music score. Untouchables still has a better, and Schindler's List
and-
score is outstanding.
Well, and you know, the last time we talked about the score, you know, Barrett, you kind of questioned whether this was one of John Williams' best, and obviously, I don't think it is one of his best. It has one main theme that is outstanding. A lot of the other music in this, though, is like chorus and stuff like that. So a lot of times, I think people get short shrift on those when it's chorus and stuff like that. But those are excellent too. It's just that it's not as, you know, it's not even as catchy or whatever as Catch Me If You Can or something like that.
I saw a video I meant to send to you guys, and we can put it in the description if this stays in the podcast anywhere. But it's this guy who takes a look at Rogue One and Michael Giacchino's 4 weeks that he had to write the theme music, and then goes back through all previous Star Wars movies and shows you with examples how much work Giacchino did to pay tribute to John Williams' score while also creating something new. I remember we talked about the score after seeing that movie, and it was kind of both half inventive and half kind of repetitive. And I had sort of dismissed it until I saw it. Its video's like 20 minutes long. It's clearly somebody who understands music theory and analysis. He talks about like the most frequently used 4 notes in the history of music, going all the way back to Gregorian chant. And then he goes and shows you all these examples of movies using it. Anyway, super interesting, and made me think more about both John Williams and Giacchino's score for Rogue One. I'll send you guys that link.
That'll be awesome.
I meant to email that to you. It's badass.
Yeah.
On to the next one in the South region. It's the 11 seed Jurassic Park versus the 2 seed Pulp Fiction.
Ooh.
Did you say
Mid-90s
Jurassic
matchup.
Park is an 11 seed because it didn't win 93?
It didn't because Schindler's List won 93. Now, obviously, if we pick Jurassic Park in this one, it'll be Schindler's List versus Jurassic Park again, and it'll be Spielberg versus Spielberg again.
For like the third time.
Yeah, in this bracket is a lot of Spielberg.
Well, I wonder if he's one of our best filmmakers.
I wonder. Sometimes, you know,
We're
you look at
Spielberging all over ourselves.
you look at his record. You know, sometimes there's some iffy things.
Give me
Anyway,
the non-union Mexican equivalent. Oh, fuck that joke up, goddammit.
with a Steven Spielbergo.
Yeah, Senor Spielbergo.
Yeah, you know, sometimes when we're doing this, these picks and everything, you're going through your reasoning and everything. I think I'm like Homer, you know, he's like, oh, Barney's film had a lot of heart and beautiful art and everything, while Football McGrowan had a football in the groin.
It's not that easy being a film critic.
That is the only episode in which Matt Groening does not lend his name because he did not believe in the crossover with the critic. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh.
Anyway, Jurassic Park versus Pulp Fiction, 2 movies in the early 90s, one in 93, one in 94. One is, you know, obviously huge popcorn entertainment that is still stands up today as one of the best examples of it. And Pulp Fiction, which is, like I said, when I walked out of that movie, things have changed.
Yeah. Although I think I felt the same kind of electric jolt from both of these movies. That kind of, with Pulp Fiction, it was a lot more, I've never seen anything like this. Whereas with Jurassic Park, we had seen Alien, which we just debated against it. We'd seen Monsters, Jaws. We'd seen this kind of a thing before, but it never done this well.
No.
Never done to these. Like, we joke all the time in the Sins videos that how can today's CG look worse than fucking Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
It's been 24 years.
I think Stan Winston took that to his grave, man.
Yeah, whatever
I
the
think-
secret was.
Yeah, he had that written down in like an old dusty book somewhere.
Right next to whoever You're So Vain is about.
Yeah, and Jimmy Hoffa's body. Might as well put all the cliches in there.
I think Jimmy Hoffa's body was in the case in Pulp Fiction. Not Vincent Marcellus'
You know what? If we tell Tarantino that, he'll probably agree with us.
Yeah, it was totally Hoffa, man. You could read in between the lines.
That's right. In fact, if you look at the first 5 letters all in a row down on the script, it spells Hoffa. Yeah, so what a time to be alive back in the early 90s. It was fantastic, man. I feel like, I don't know, like I said, we talk about this before. Is it because of what we were, like how old we were, that we felt like we were in this golden age and we refer back to it so fondly? Or was it really that much of a golden age?
No, I mean, speaking specifically about these 2 years, because you had such an outburst of creativity. When it comes to Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, just in the meat of Tarantino's, I mean, between Reservoir Dogs and that, it's like the rebirth of the cool, right? Like he was just, everybody was cool. And it wasn't like it was all young people or it was all old people. You got fucking Harvey Keitel in here, and you got Uma Thurman, you got, Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, who was not cool at that point.
No, this was like his second comeback.
You put these people's mouth around his dialogue and it just sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Everything is cool. And it's right on the edge of something just completely new. And that's why it's a cool time to be alive. We had seen a lot of Jurassic, like you said, a lot of monster movies. Nothing to this scope. And that's why it was great.
Yeah.
This was the Pulp Fiction. The first scene is, Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer, and it sort of ends that scene abruptly. It's like, if any one of you fucking pricks move, I'll execute every last one of you, and all that. And it stops and it goes right into the credits and everything. And you're like, at first I was like, I don't know if I can really get into this. And the dialogue at the beginning is cool and everything, but it was really abrupt. But then it gets into the Samuel Jackson, John Travolta talk and I was sitting there like, it was during that scene that I was like, okay,
yeah,
I dig this.
Your jaw drops and you're just like,
I dig.
What?
They're talking about going to Amsterdam and like smoking weed and going into McDonald's and what the things are called there, and then like talking about the difference between like what kind of ranking of anger should Marcellus Wallace have about somebody giving his girl a foot massage, and like there's that point where they're like at the door and they're like, what time is it? It's like 8:40 something, whatever. And he's like, not time yet, let's hang back. And then they go off and start talking like, look, just because I wouldn't give no man no foot massage, motherfucker do that to me, you better kill my ass, because I'm gonna kill the motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff is so fantastic, and then it goes right into that next thing where it's like Samuel Jackson's in character, John Travolta's in character.
Yeah. Which is funny because Travolta's character was the hyperverbal character in the car and going all the way up into it, and then Samuel L. Jackson just takes over. It's in Vegas, just hanging back there being cool and not saying shit.
Yeah. Same as in the diner later. Travolta's not saying much, and Samuel L. Jackson's doing all the talking.
Yeah.
It just this is just uniformly excellent all the way through. And then even when I went back and watched, and of course it goes back to the diner scene, of course, later on, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see what he was doing with this. But yeah, at the time I was 17 years old. I was like, what the fuck is this movie, man?
Yeah.
What is this? What is going on? But yeah, I was instantly just down in it once the Samuel Jackson, John Travolta stuff came up. Jurassic Park also has Samuel L. Jackson in it.
Yeah, it does. Hold on to your butts.
That's right.
I hate this hacker crap.
And it's exciting, and it's wonderfully done. It's just like Jaws was, only like more like it's more modern and more like more trying to pander to the audience a little bit. But it's excellent. It's like I said, it was the first time I ever saw audience reaction when I was working at a movie theater. It was the first time walking in and seeing the lawyer in the bathroom and the porta potty thing, and thinking, oh yeah, okay, that's a funny scene. And then the T-Rex chomps down on him, and nobody like the audience going like laughing to like like that like immediately is fantastic.
Yep.
Also, I think one of the best scores ever, Jurassic Park. I think that's one of Williams' best.
It's one of his most recognizable themes.
It really is. And now he's got the historic recognizable, the big three, Superman, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars from the 80s, 70s, and 80s. But just all around score, there's multiple themes in Jurassic Park that work really, really well. At least three main themes that he returns back to multiple times. I bought that soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we played it in the high school band. No, I'm just kidding. That's that
Nice.
thing you do quote. Del Paxton in the high school band. That's Clint Howard saying that, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, what's the order?
You're up.
I'm up.
Yep.
Fuck. All right, so I'm going to say something that will probably get me attacked.
Uh-huh.
I recognize it's part of the whole pulp novel thing that Tarantino is trying to emulate and bring up with the movie. But that whole Bruce Willis storyline doesn't do it for me.
Mm.
And I'll tell you specifically, like the part when he's in the cab, I could use a good 30-second scene to find out he killed that other boxer. I don't need 9 minutes of this weird cab driver woman.
Esmeralda Villalobos.
And it just kind of drags for me there. And then the next real scene we get with him is him and this weird girlfriend,
Mhm.
and they're love making whatever in the hotel that I don't really need.
You give me oral pleasure?
Yeah. And then the biggest coincidence in the world, he runs into Marcellus Wallace while he's just driving around in Los Angeles.
Motherfucker.
And then by the time we get to the pawn shop people who have a gimp, which honestly at the time I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
And then it goes to ball gagging rape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been the most disconnected I am that entire movie.
Yeah.
There's something, I mean, even though the other main storylines are violent and flashy and crazy, they're somehow more relatable to me.
Mhm.
This is what I'm saying. It's more relatable to me to shoot a guy in the back of the car on accident and have to clean the brains out than it is to get abducted by a pawn shop gay rapist who has his own gimp. Like, I don't know what I'm saying makes any sense, but of the three main stories in Pulp Fiction, that one is the one that drags for me and is hard for me to relate to. And there's nothing like that in Jurassic Park. So I'm going Jurassic Park.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, Tarantino fans. You probably already hate me since I like Jackie Brown more than Pulp Fiction anyway. But this is where I get off the Pulp Fiction train.
You know what though? Fuck them. It's like it's one of those things though. I think that when a movie has this kind of reputation, and you know, it's almost like they've built a wall where you can't, like, you know, it's unimpeachable now or whatever. It's like, look, I think there's some parts in this that I don't like. You know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
No, I agree that the weakest part is definitely the Butch storyline, especially right when it goes into the pawn shop. I'm on board all the way up until then because you've got the watch scene with Christopher Walken. You've got, I don't mind the Fabian scene when he's in the hotel and everything. And then when he goes back and he kills Vincent Vega, he's got me up until that part that just goes like a little bit too far.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, everything else in that movie buttresses it up so sky high to me that is a minor nitpick for me. And it's Pulp Fiction all the way.
I do have to give Pulp Fiction credit for one of the two smartest waitresses in film ever. When Tim Roth does the garçon and she comes up and very subtly says, "Garçon means boy."
yeah.
Also in Swingers, there's something like that when John Favreau's
Oh
like,
yeah. Where
you can have breakfast anytime. And he's like, "I'll take the pancakes in the Age of Enlightenment." And he doesn't think she gets the joke, but later when she comes back, she casually calls him Voltaire.
Yeah, he's like, we're in kind of a hurry here. He's like, hang on, Voltaire.
Anyway, so you vote Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pulp Fiction here. Comparing these two movies, there's definitely, I don't know if there's even a definite excitement edge Jurassic Park has over Pulp Fiction. And that Bruce Willis section, I am all over that. I know that I can see you not liking.
You know
it, though.
why? It's because she talks like a 9-year-old girl.
Well, she's French.
What?
But the pitch of her voice is childified.
Yeah.
Like
Whose motorcycle is this,
It's like
Butch?
baby talk.
Yeah.
In a relationship. Drives me up the fucking
Yeah,
wall.
well, and you know, there are other. I mean, I could pick some other things that bother me about that scene because, of course, Bruce Willis specifically reminded her to get the watch of the kangaroo, and she even knows it when she recites it back to him, and he's like, "Oh, I totally forgot it." Yeah, you know. And you get the sense that he's really abusive towards her too.
There's kind of an undercurrent there, isn't there?
Well, there's the calling her a retard.
Yeah.
And then there's the throwing stuff around the apartment and everything, and it looks like they're making it where she's kind of into it.
Well, and even the implication that she gives him sexual favors, but he doesn't give them to her very often.
Yeah. So there's some stuff there, but like that that whole
You don't think?
I think there's a reciprocal thing.
I think it's being requested to be reciprocated here in the sense that it's not usually reciprocated.
He just got done with the goddamn prize fight, and she's asking him to go down on her. If you're in that, you've had a rough night at the office. You know, if there was any time
I'm worried for you.
I'm just saying that if he can do it then, like, he's probably doing that on the regular.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, at least she could put out. He just had a big fight. No, that's not what
But-
you said.
No, what I'm saying is that if he, you know, at that moment, like,
All right,
he's down
so maybe
with it.
I'm wrong. Okay, fine.
But yeah, I mean that scene, like that whole thing with Zed, I dig that because of that lurid nature of it and everything. It's something that it is off-putting in a way, but it's also something like you never see this.
Yeah.
It's a situation that you would never think is going to be weird. You run into a store, a redneck store, and then suddenly it becomes this basement thing, and like there's a gimp involved, and like it's one of those things like that's so lurid. It's exactly what they defined pulp as at the beginning.
Yep, I get why it's in there.
And you prefaced it when you said that about the Bruce Willis thing. I mean, but it was something that I sort of like just, I'll just dirty myself up with this. I like this.
So what you're saying, Chris, is that you're a very dirty boy.
I am.
He's got a gimp in the closet behind him.
Hey,
Yeah.
with a battery now that it rolled under the door.
Well, really, the gimp is in my heart, Barrett.
He named his closet Heart.
That's right. That's right. That leaves this Elite Eight a matchup of Schindler's List versus Pulp Fiction.
1-2.
I'm glad that we picked Pulp Fiction, if only because we've already done Schindler's List versus
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, essentially. On to the West region, where we have the number 1 seed Back to the Future versus the 4 seed Empire Strikes Back.
They both have back in the title.
They do.
This is going to be hard just because of that.
Yeah, I know. Just because, like, who did the back better?
Only one has Huey Lewis in it, though.
Oh,
Well,
are you
that we
sure?
know of.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah.
20 years from now.
Could have been a
we don't-
stormtrooper.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Daniel Craig in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is the 80s-est battle there is.
Sure is.
This is a
Close to it.
box office bonanza. I think Back to the Future might have made more money than this movie.
Oh.
Because Empire Strikes Back took a little bit of a nosedive from what Star Wars did.
Well, Return of the Jedi made more than Empire for sure.
Yeah, and Return of the Jedi made more. Yeah, it was because of the darkness, man. Nobody
Yeah.
likes the darkness.
Everybody likes the light.
Darkness.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Back to the Future, I've always said is my favorite movie, and then Empire. I've probably seen these movies similar amount of times, though. I mean, I've seen Back to the Future more for sure, but Empire Strikes Back, I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
How do we judge this? These are two movies that are so woven into American fabric, and this is the first. I think this is the first time we've had a matchup like this, right?
What do you mean, like classic movies?
Like movies that have made this much money
Yeah.
going up against each other. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we've had some others that I've just skirted
I
over.
think this is probably up there.
but
yeah.
this is the first time I've seen
Sideways versus Shawshank.
Oh,
Those
yeah,
movies
yeah.
Made bank.
those movies made the same amount of money. I would say Sideways probably made more money than Shawshank.
That's what I did.
Which movie did its spectacle better is basically what we gotta go.
Yeah. I mean, with Back to the Future was such an unknown property and so groundbreaking in story, in thrusting Michael J. Fox into the like stratosphere,
Mhm.
even though people knew who he was. And Empire is a great follow-up, but it's a known property.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you compare them like that, it is divergent to where, not the shitty movie, but where one is almost perfecting a known property, and one is just coming out of nowhere to
That's a
set
good
hearts
point.
on fire.
Both of these are somewhat minor miracles, because after the first Star Wars, George Lucas apparently just said, I will relinquish my reins to someone else on this. And I think after we talked about Empire the last time, made it an inference that the studio may have done something, but he made this movie all on his own. And just let Fox distribute it, basically. So he could have directed it if he wanted to. But I think he sort of like was wise enough to say, I want to get some other people on this. And of course, maybe he wasn't wise enough. The movie made less money. It made a lot of money.
Yes.
Made a lot of money, but maybe. But see, I think this movie was going to be something completely different if he had done it on his own.
Oh, absolutely.
And we wouldn't have had such an iconic entry into the series.
Yeah.
Back to the Future obviously is a minor miracle because they had Eric Stoltz playing the main character, and this, I feel like this would have been like any other stupid ass 80s comedy.
After we talked about it the last time, and Jeremy mentioned, or you guys both mentioned, that you can go and see the footage of him doing it, and you read about like his intense behavior on set to where like he was shoving Biff over and over for all those takes where he's like, get your meat hooks off and that kind of thing, to where dude's like sternum was bruised, and he was like, I'm going to fucking kick that guy's ass if we do another take of this. And, when you get Michael J. Fox, I'm sure everybody on the set just fell in love with him. Mm-hmm. And from all accounts, they did. And you did too as a viewer.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do we want to just go ahead and vote on
Let's do it, baby. I'll start.
Okay.
Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack. Don't shake your head at me.
You don't know what I'm shaking my head
I'm
at.
telling you, man. You got the introduction of Yoda.
I'm shaking my head at your shirt.
You got. I forgot what I was wearing. You got the introduction of Yoda. You've got Darth Vader's most Darth Vader-y moment.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Mark Hamill's best acting in this series up until who knows what's going to happen with the last.
I think so.
Jedi.
Boy, that trailer was awesome. Did you see it?
That trailer is awesome.
The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
That wide shot of her with a lightsaber on the hill.
Oh,
and
where it's just tiny.
There.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I really hope he hit this out of the park.
Ryan Johnson.
I know it, baby. Guy who hates us that we love.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's another, middle trilogy movie, much like Empire.
Well,
so
it
might
might be able to go dark, right?
Yeah.
Force Awakens couldn't go too dark.
No.
And the next one can't.
Yeah.
So this is the chance, and it looks moody and ethereal. I'm very excited. Sorry, we're not even talking about that movie.
So, yeah, that's my pick. I think there's just too much that I love about it, even though I love it. This is the battle of attrition, basically. So that's my pick.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Back to the Future. None of that over the time has changed. I mean, both of these movies are great.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're in this at this point. We've got nothing but excellent to choose from. But I think Back to the Future does its story a little bit better in the end. I think it's a little bit more fun, and I think it's just, everything about it is so clever. Empire Strikes Back, I don't have much problem with it. I mean, obviously it's great. I don't know. I can't really think of anything negative. I know that we send it and there were things that I was surprised about that were a little off, but overall, it's great. But Back to the Future is going to win this matchup. I mean, that's something that I, probably had in my head for 30 years at this point. So yeah, I'm going to pick that.
Yeah, it's Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
And I love Empire, but I feel about Empire the same way I do about the Beatles. I think the Beatles were probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest rock and roll band ever, but they're still overrated. And I think Empire is the best Star Wars movie ever made, but I think it's still a little overrated because it's part of the Star Wars family.
You think it's overrated, do you think?
I think a little bit, yeah.
Wow.
But,
well,
maybe I should just not say that and take a bunch of hate on that.
I will say that one of the things that was I never really noticed this about Empire until we did the Sins video for it. There were a lot of things that they expected viewers to understand with the 3 years that had passed.
Yeah.
With books and stuff that they had published.
Yeah.
So that's why there's like moments where they're talking about like some other bounty hunter guy or like there's some other adventure they had, whatever. It starts that awful thing that Star Wars does where they sit there and talk about the great things that they did. Even in Empire, there's that.
Yeah.
Because there's a point like when they're on Hoth, Han Solo and Leia have that little conversation. You don't really notice it. I never noticed it when I watched it multiple times. It's just some innocuous dialogue to me, but they're talking about something that happened in the last 3 years, and we don't really I don't think we really understand why they're on that planet at the beginning. It explains that that Darth Vader's looking for them and everything. Like the rebels, like after they beat the Death Star, they dispersed, and then they ends up on this planet,
the most inhospitable.
Let's
planet.
go to this one right here that's like impossible to live on. They could have picked any planet in the universe probably, and it would have been the same type of deal. But yeah, and stuff like that is just a tad bit off-putting to me when you have to, read their other part of the universe to understand. No, that's just a little part of the movie. It's not like you have to really know that story to enjoy Empire Strikes Back. But it's annoying that they sit there and refer to something like, oh, I bet you read those books, huh? These are really good.
I do think Empire gives us the best pure Han Solo moment, and it's not the I love you, I know, even though that's great. It's when they walk into that dining hall and he sees Vader, and he just whips out his pistol and starts shooting. A smart man would not do that. You would know, A, I can't win this way, and B, my better solution here is negotiating and see what's going on. But Han's not about being smart. Han's about being impulsive and protecting the people he loves who are right there with him. And he just pulls that gun out without a blink. I think it's a very brave moment.
Yeah.
This takes us to our last matchup of the Sweet 16. Wow. It is the 6 seed Ex Machina versus the 2 seed The Matrix.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
2 movies that are similar in theme.
They are. They play and dance around the same deep thoughts. They can give me the same kind of conversations. What's up?
I just watched Ex Machina recently. Does she achieve singularity?
Oh, Jesus. You're going to make me talk about...
so...
Does the AI, does she actually pass the Turing test?
Is that what achieving singularity means?
Achieving singularity is where AI can essentially function on its own and then exponentially self-upgrade.
Well, that's what I thought. See, I thought the singularity is when technology had achieved the ability to ramp itself up faster than we could.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know about that.
Well,
because I don't know if she can go out and build another robot.
Also, the question becomes for me, since she was programmed basically to try to escape.
Yeah. Is she even AI?
Well, there's that. There's that too. That definitely is a valid point. I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking more along the lines of once she's out, does she have purpose? Does she have something that drives her in the outside world? The movie ends before we find that out.
Well, we get that inclination that she might have gone to Times Square, right?
Yeah,
she went to a busy intersection.
She's walking down a sidewalk and sees all these people, but that's how the movie ends. So you don't know exactly. Like now, if she goes and like, I need to get a job and I need to get an apartment and I need to do all that.
She's like waiting tables.
Yeah. So she's trying to get into like Brigadoon off Broadway or something like that. Yeah.
Brigadoon.
That might actually be the self-actualization that you're looking for.
She's got the lead in Cats.
Yeah. So that's the thing I think that it wisely ends on, because that does make you think about what is her purpose after she's escaped.
Well, I mean, she has all of the capabilities because the escape is a means to an end, I think. It's the fact that if you can achieve this, if you can deceive and get a leg up on both of these characters, then you should be able to not only function as a human, but since you are this entity that should have achieved singularity, then you would be able to exponentially kind of upgrade yourself to where you're going to go lightning past everything else. And I think that's kind of what it's implying, because if she has achieved that first step, then the rest of them should just be, nature, basically.
Yeah.
Because she's got that brain that is the entirety of essentially Google or Blue Book or whatever it is. And she's able to do these things. Oh, one thing about this movie, as I was reading up on it, a really creepy ending that they cut was when she goes out and she's talking to the helicopter pilot, because she goes out and talks to him, and then the next shot we see he's lifting off. We don't know what she said to him. But there was a scene there where it cuts to her perspective, and the pilot's talking to her, and all it is like a bunch of like pulses and sounds. Mm-hmm. She's not actually understanding the language. She's just understanding the nonverbal communication.
Oh.
So she's at a whole different level, but she's been able to manipulate these guys all the way to that using that. Mm-hmm. And that's like the really crazy part that I love that idea.
Yeah, no, that's deep.
As far as passing the Turing test, yes, that's easy. She does. I don't think there's anybody that's going to go down the sidewalk there and go, oh, robot. There's not anybody who could talk to her and go, oh, totally a robot. You know, that could be context too. Why would a robot be out here? You know, that type of thing. But yeah, as far as passing the test, I think that's. But what does she do now? That's the next thing. Now, The Matrix also, a big movie about existence. And, your reality, you're not what you think it is.
Just a second ago during the Ex Machina talk, I was getting Oracle vibes in The Matrix about how, well, if she's programmed to do this, is there any real free will going on here in this system? Because, if the movie's to be believed, machines don't comprehend free will. They don't understand choice. I know I'm dabbling in the third and fourth, or second and third movie. There are not four. The second and third movie a little bit here too. But, can he even trust her? And he has to weigh that and decide that he does. Anyway, it's my happy place. I fucking love this movie. There's no way in hell I'm voting for Ex Machina over The Matrix. Hope I didn't just sway one of you one way or the other. It's too soon. Too soon for Ex Machina to have been seen enough by me, to have been discussed and debated as we just did for a minute. Whereas The Matrix has had, 18 years to be out there and be dissected and have probably dissertations written and master's theses and so on and so forth. It's just if you like to think with a little bit of your badass looking action sci-fi, this is probably the perfect movie.
Yeah, and The Matrix is just like how Pulp Fiction was, right? After the movie was done, I was like, things have changed again. This is a trend-setting, this is a moment in film history when this movie came out. And amazing to me, too, like how, I guess Warner Brothers didn't even look like they really believed in this movie with its release date. I mean, I guess late March, you're getting into that area where you get spring break and stuff like that. But I remember that coming out. It was like, it seemed like a summer movie, but it's coming out in the spring. Back in 1999, that was, it's like, I don't know.
Maybe they were just trying to avoid Phantom Menace.
Well, I'm sure they were trying to avoid Phantom Menace on some level, because if I recall, Phantom Menace, there were so many people afraid of that, they didn't want to come out with a movie on the second week.
Right.
And so there was a lot of like log jam after that. But I'm sure part of that is that. But, why not come out with it in the first week of May, which by that point, movies were coming out. And of course, they would have had to go up against The Mummy and shit like that. I believe The Mummy came out that first or second week. But yeah, whenever I saw that back in the day, a late March, early April release, I was like, oh no. And then you watch it and you're just like, oh, this is so great. And maybe they weren't quite sure what they had.
Yeah.
And then when it came out, they're like, oh, okay, we know what we got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, what's our voting?
You're first.
I'm first. I'm going The Matrix on this one.
Okay.
I love Ex Machina, and I think it has a lot of, it has a lot of deep themes in it that I like about, it has everything I like about movies. And Matrix is just an exciting action picture in addition to putting all these philosophical questions, that the same things that Ex Machina raises. So I got to go Matrix here.
Yeah, I do think Matrix has more action. They dabble in the same themes. Give me 15 years and let's have this conversation again when I've seen Ex Machina 5-10 more times and it's had a chance to seep into my soul. But as of right now, yeah, as I said before Chris even voted, I'm voting The Matrix. And I love it. It's my baby. And if it loses, I'm going to weep. I'm hoping it goes all the way, even though I know that's impossible.
I think Ex Machina is the smarter movie. But I think you're right. The Matrix is that much more watchable. Ex Machina is almost Kubrickian with its pacing.
Yeah.
And the characters are so subtle and deliberate and that kind of thing that it's more in lines of like The Shining or 2001 to a certain degree than The Matrix, which is just more of a fun. Yeah, it's a totally a head movie.
This head movie makes my eyes rain. I've been waiting for a chance to work a Simple Jack quote in this podcast.
That's the
for a
second
long
time Simple Jack has come. Oh, yeah. No, it's The Matrix all the way.
All right, so you remember at the beginning of this, the bracket and everything, and you said that there was somebody who said that I have a feeling of where this is going based on the seating. 1 versus 2, every single one of them.
Really?
1 versus 2.
Well, I'll blame you guys for that.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Well,
they're 1 and 2 seeds for a reason.
They are.
What do we got? Let's hear them all one more
We're
time.
gonna have in that one we're gonna have Back to the Future versus The Matrix. Now that's my favorite. that's my favorite movie versus your favorite movie. Now here's a question though. I still haven't made my decision on that one.
Ah,
I don't think I have either.
And those are 2 movies that you know those are popcorn films. What are we gonna do? That'll be next week. But but even though I've constantly said Back to the Future is my favorite movie, it's going up against The Matrix, and I have to very much consider.
Well, and Back to the Future is probably in my top 3. I mean, it's not like, and you love The Matrix, so it's not like, we're talking about my worst favorite versus your. We're like, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I'm gonna break some tissues.
So so to reiterate here, our matchups in the Elite 8 are Jaws versus Die Hard, Children of Men versus City of God.
Damn it, it's not really fair to those movies.
Schindler's List versus Pulp Fiction, and Back to the Future versus The Matrix.
And I didn't hear Shawshank in there. Which one is Shawshank?
Shawshank is still a 12 seed.
You said a 1 and a 2, so that's 12.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought maybe I could just fool you guys into thinking Shawshank was still in the...
Well, now here's the big part of the surprise that none of you guys knew. We're going to introduce 8 more movies.
Or we're going to do Last Chance Kitchen for
That's
our
right.
bracket. And Incredibles has played itself back in.
These movies were on a deserted island somewhere, and now they've been brought back to the loft where the real world is going on.
Do we have time for questions?
Yes, we do.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Okay. So, was there any song in a movie that introduced you to an artist that you now love? For this person, it's King Crimson, who's now one of his favorite bands in the film Children of Men.
That's a good one.
That is a very good one.
Yeah, I had was very familiar with King Crimson by the time that movie came out, but that it's done so well in that you don't hear King Crimson very often in movies. That's the first time I think I could say that I've ever heard King Crimson in a movie before. That I knew of anyway, but I don't have a particular song that then got me into that band and I bought all their albums based on what one song I heard in a movie. And I have a few where I at least bought the songs or I recognized this band. So like the biggest one probably is Rushmore, which has a lot of the British invasion stuff that's going on in there. And of course, I was familiar with The Who, but I don't think I liked them all that. I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I got to hear some Who,
Yeah.
It was, and it wasn't until like later when American Beauty has the Seeker and all that in it that it really drove it home. But yeah, Rushmore has a quick one while he's away, and it's really great the way they do it and everything, and that sort of got me into like, let's start looking into some Who albums and everything. So, and Quadrophenia is a great album. I mean, I can listen to that right now. I can listen to it right now. That album is awesome. There are a couple of other smaller ones like Donovan and Goodfellas.
Yeah.
There's the Atlanta song during the beatdown scene.
Yeah.
So Donovan was something that I remember watching Goodfellas and going into the credits and I was like, who did that song? I know that they're saying something about the ocean or whatever. I don't know what is it. And I couldn't find anything. It's just called Atlantis. And the part that makes it Atlantis, where Donovan is talking at the beginning of it, is barely in the movie soundtrack. So I couldn't find it forever. And finally I was like, oh, okay. And once Google became a real thing, oh, Donovan did that song. And then there's one other that I'll mention. Massive Attack in Go.
Oh yeah.
When Sarah Polly pulls her shirt up and Timothy Oliphant's looking for like microphones,
Yeah.
the song Angel plays.
Mhm.
And that's a great song. And then of course House, had Teardrop. So it was like sort of a 1-2 combo on getting into Massive Attack through those things.
Nice. Good stuff.
I'm going to go with Amy Mann.
Yes,
because of
good
Magnolia.
one.
Great one.
Now, ironically, I was already into Michael Pitt, who is her husband.
Michael Penn.
Michael Penn. Michael Pitt is an actor. Michael Penn, but he's also related to Sean Penn.
Yes, he is.
I was already into
Brother.
Michael Penn, who's her husband, before this. His biggest hit, I guess, was No Myth. I don't know if you're familiar with that song. Romeo in Black Jeans is the hook of the chorus. What if I was Romeo in black jeans? What if I was Heathcliff?
Yeah.
And so I was already into him, and Magnolia is almost entirely Amy Mann in terms of the soundtrack. And the big song there is Wise Up, where everybody's singing along.
Such a
in
great
one of the
moment.
most powerful scenes in the movie.
Yep.
And so I started doing more research into her. I actually like everything I've ever heard of her, but I like the stuff she put out right before Magnolia the best, like That's Just What You Are and Cigarettes and Red Wine. And so I went back and bought entire albums because of how great her music was in that movie. And if I'd have just explored Michael Penn's wife a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Why did you explore his wife?
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way. But that would be an awesome acoustic show to see husband and wife, and they like play each other's songs together. And I imagine they have to do that sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah,
go check out Amy Mann.
she was on a podcast with Mark Maron recently.
Oh, yeah?
And that was an interesting podcast, but he had her sing one of her new songs and everything. She just hammered it,
Yeah.
and Mark Maron's like, how do they do that? these musicians come in here and they just knock it out of the park like that. Like, how does that happen? And it was great. It was
Have
a great
you heard
song.
of this band, Kaleo? They're playing on Lightning 100 a lot.
Calexico or
No, it's Kaleo. Way Down We Go. And Way Down. We
Oh,
Go.
yeah.
Oh,
That song.
Anyway,
Yeah.
there's that act, I think it's a guy, but might be a band. They went into the XM studios and did a set live, and a lot of the channels like to play those exclusive live. So there's this acoustic version of that song.
Mm-hmm.
I get chills hearing that guy sing. Same with Rag and Bone Man, who's got a couple songs that people are loving. An acoustic version to those, and he's got a chilling voice.
Nice.
Anyway,
one guy that I definitely got into after listening to it was from a 2004 movie, Closer.
Yeah.
This movie I've talked about a long time ago. Clive Owen, Julia Roberts, Jude Law, and Natalie Portman. Awesome movie.
Yeah.
Very character driven. But at the end of it, it's got a guy named Damien Rice, an Irish folk singer, with a song called "The Blower's Daughter," and it's got this great hook. And one of his songs was used in Lost in a great episode when John Locke is sitting on the beach and everything. But as soon as I heard, I can't take my eyes off of you, and actually it was on the OC as
Oh,
well. But once I heard like that whole thing, oh my God, I just got chills. And I wanted to get everything this guy did. He had an album called O that was just absolutely gorgeous. And one of them had that song that was on Lost and everything. And so he's a great singer-songwriter that you guys should check out. The other one is an obvious choice, and I feel like John Cusack is making me do this, but it's the Beta Band.
Oh, yeah.
From High Fidelity, where he goes, I will
That
now
song is
sell-
outstanding.
Dry the Rain. Yeah, and that EP is terrific. It's the 3 EPs by the Beta Band. And that whole thing is just really, really great. Now, they didn't follow that up. I think they only did one album after that. It's a Scottish group. But that scene, that mood, that whole thing that he drives in where he's like, this is great. I know. And you want to punch him in the face, but he's right, So anyway. But those are, you should check out all of those things. 2 more quick ones. If you were to create a robot a la Ex Machina, speaking of which, who would you model your android after, and what would its primary function be? And no sex droids, please.
Yeah, you got to throw that caveat in
Which
there
is
with
funny
us.
because Oscar Isaac in Ex Machina is like, oh, you bet you can fuck.
You better.
Yeah.
Back to the
They're like, I made a hole.
She's got sensors,
Yeah.
which means she can fuck you and she can get pleasure from it.
yeah.
Yes, I think David from Prometheus is like the perfect robot. This guy, even though I don't like the movie that much, I don't think any of us really do. Like he's loyal, like he's into pop culture stuff. He's He's interesting. Like he's a good conversationalist, and he's capable.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's what you want in a robot. You know, you want somebody that's going to have your back and everything, even when he's down to just a head. Like he's going to help you out and get you to the next movie, the Covenant movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I want me a David, and no sex with David.
No sex with David. I don't know if I answered this question exactly the way they had it worded here, because they model your android after part isn't exactly. I think possibly I'm describing C-3PO, but less annoying than C-3PO.
Right.
Like he would not be that. I would reprogram that shit immediately. But so I would want somebody who's like him, who's very helpful, knows a lot of languages. Somebody who I don't want, this gets into those, those crazy discussions. If you had an android who, didn't need sleep, didn't need money, didn't need all that stuff. Is it your slave? That type of thing. I don't exactly want that. I want somebody who's collaborative. I can bounce ideas off of him, and his computer brain will be able to say that's not possible, or that's 15% possible, or whatever. And then I'll just decide whether or not I like the odds or not.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. So I would say C-3PO, obviously more humanoid since this is an android and everything. And not fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I think C-3PO is useful if he's not annoying. So there you go.
No, that's a good call. I'm actually going to read what I wrote in its entirety. So I wrote, no sex robots, question. Oh, man. I guess its primary function then for me would be as a wingman. So I'd make him look like John Hamm or just Josh Brolin. Then I'd go to the clubs and women would flock to us. Then I'd eventually tell the women that he's a robot and he doesn't even have an android dick. And then the women would come home because they're so worked up and do a group thing with me. And the robot can just stand in the corner and watch.
Yeah.
And then in parenthesis I wrote, you see what happens when you try and tell me not to go with a sex robot.
You find a loophole.
I find basically a loophole to do a sex robot.
But you know what? If they were true wingmen, though, you wouldn't have to tell the women that they're robots. They would be able to just deflect all that beautiful attention.
Yeah, but if they're that handsome, the women are going to need more than just him turning them down.
There would be a couple of women who would go home with those robots.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I got to give them a reason to come home with me instead.
They would definitely be like, okay, yeah, okay, I can.
He doesn't
I can
have
deal.
a dick. He's got a hand, right?
I can deal with it. Huh?
Did I just say that?
What?
Huh?
He's got a mouth.
We could go home and do a group thing.
Well, there's multiple.
He's got a mouth.
Oh shit! That's right. That's correct. You know that you've really achieved that Turing test when you can go down on somebody.
It feels just like the real thing.
The sexual Turing test. I like it. I like it a lot. Oh my God, Moses! Have you answered this one yet, Barrett?
Yes.
The Android.
Yeah. While you were searching through.
While I was ignoring you, looking up shit on my phone.
Exactly.
All right. Excellent.
Since you looked that up, you want to do one more?
Sure. What the fuck?
An insatiable desire for world domination has overcome you. What band of 4 villains from any movie will you assemble to assist you in your conquest? Damn.
Mm-hmm.
So my supervillains, Magneto. All right. He can
Nice.
be easily manipulated, obviously. Seems like everybody can fucking get Magneto to do what they want him to do. It could
Which
be
is
Charles
ironic,
Xavier.
considering his power is manipulating men.
Right, exactly. Fucking Apocalypse is making him do all this bullshit. Like Trask is making him
That
angry.
ugly
and all that
bitch
stuff.
in blue somehow got him to sleep with her, even though she's not hot at all.
Maybe so. So that's Magneto, but he's physically all powerful.
Yep.
I'm going to put Voldemort in there.
Oh, interesting.
He's got the charisma, and he can organize the dark minions.
But he is ultimately a failure.
I'm not going ultimately.
Okay.
Like most villains are ultimately a failure, but I'm saying in his prime, Voldemort's pretty fucking all powerful, and he's got an army.
I concur.
He's got the Death Eaters, and then he got him and Magneto together. Now that's pretty good stuff. Also have Hannibal Lecter for the intellect. All right, so he's not physically imposing, but he can. He talked Miggs into swallowing his tongue to kill himself.
He did.
And if a guy can do that, then he could outsmart quite a bit of of the superheroes or whoever's going to try to stop me. And to organize this whole shebang, to help me organize, is the master manipulator Kaiser Soze. So you got Kaiser Soze, you've got Hannibal Lecter, you've got Magneto, and you got Voldemort. That's a pretty fucking
What are they?
badass
Some kind of
murderers
Suicide Squad?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's nice. All right, so mine, I like choosing Syndrome from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
For these things, and he's also got some badass inventions and weapons.
He does.
I picked the Joker from Dark Knight for his pure chaos. Right? If you put the inventions of Syndrome in the hands of a man like the Joker, chaos goes up 10 times. Easy.
And he's also organized for an agent of chaos.
That's true, but I think he leaves most of that to his underlings. Who wants to join our team? Evil Genie Jafar from Aladdin.
Oh,
And I wrote
interesting.
because he's a fucking genie.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then Lord Business for his totalitarian ambition.
Ooh.
Because I think our group needs ambition if we're going to achieve anything. Otherwise, we'll just get lazy on our spoils. But that's
So
mine.
you got Syndrome, you got Lord Business,
Joker.
and
I already forgot. I closed my phone. Oh, it was shit. Who was it? Well, you guys don't remember either.
what's the third one?
I backed out of it. I have to go search my phone all over again to find it.
See,
The
now,
Joker.
God
Lord
damn it!
Business.
I'm looking this up because God damn it,
It's funnier to not know.
it is, but at the same time, it's like
it's Evil Jafar.
Evil Jafar.
Evil Jafar.
Evil Jafar.
Evil Jafar.
You got a pretty good team there.
I'm pretty happy with him. I don't know if we could take your team, but
Yeah, we should pit our teams against each other and
Yes.
see who can have an evil off.
yes. And if that were possible, we would do it.
All right, so my villains are I'm going to have Mystique.
Ooh.
Because being able to change into other people is an extremely useful skill, I would say.
I concur.
I'm looking more intelligence here because I think the problem that supervillains have is that they're exploitable. I think a lot of times their powers are just exploitable. It just all comes down to what guy in the X-Men can I find that can exploit Magneto, or like how can I combine them all to exploit Magneto and everything. We got to do something a little bit more fucked up, I think. So you start with Mystique, who can go in and like just change into other people. She can like. I think she that was underused, even that she could change into other people. She could have been more than just the Bruce Davison senator in the first one. She could have done a whole bunch of other senators and ruined their careers and fucked up the entire American government if she wanted to. But nope, let's just do the one guy.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to have Zemo from Civil War. Now, because whatever bullshit that guy did in the year that it took from his family getting killed and everything to finding a way to get Tony and Captain America to fight,
It is impressive.
it's impressive. It's impossible, but it's impressive. It's fucking impressive.
It's a guy you want on your team.
You want that guy
Yeah.
because he's going to be able to just like go anywhere he wants to and manipulate. He knows the dynamic of Captain America and Iron Man just by like because his family died. He's
got multiple camera angles of a traffic accident.
He does, man. He knows that's going to be his trigger, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to have Zemo from Civil War. I'm going to have Bane from Dark Knight Rises.
Smart and brawn.
I do need some muscle, but he is smarter than the Bane that was in fucking Batman and Robin.
Well, and the Bane in the comics is actually as smarter than Bruce Wayne. Like,
Oh, really?
He wins on intellect before he wins on brawn.
Yeah.
I actually love that comic run.
So
Anyway.
gonna have that guy. He's gonna be like my main badass, and he's gonna be able to get in the program with Mystique and Zemo. And then I'm gonna have Cosmo from Sneakers.
Nice.
Be tearing the system down from within because he's got the power to do that. It's like I may shut down the whole damn system. So we're gonna be smart about this. We're gonna ruin the other superheroes through our fucking up the infrastructure of government and just making an entirely different world out of it. Now the original question said, what heroes would you have to battle these people? And believe me, I am rooting for the villains in this. Now, I did pick up some really good heroes, though. We're going to need people who know their shit.
Yep.
So to make this a really good movie, I'm going to have Maya from Zero Dark 30.
Oh.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh.
There's somebody who's obsessed and who can like find the littlest of details that might be able to swing the tide, even though I don't want the tide to be swung. Yeah. Then I'm going to have fucking Batman.
Of course.
Because he's the world's greatest detective.
Fucking Batman.
Yep.
This is a Batman movie, essentially, with Batman and Bane and the same thing. Then I'm going to have Rich Purnell from The Martian.
Oh, wow.
Problem solver.
Wow.
You know,
Coffee spitter.
He's thinking outside the box, man. Slingshot around. I saw Star Trek too. And then I'm going to have Jason Bourne because we have a combination of CIA and assassin.
Wow.
That is a movie I want to fucking watch.
I could get behind that, man.
Batman and Jason Bourne on the same team.
That's right.
And you were rooting against them.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
It
Got a
is
little
fucked up.
shtickle of Mystique thrown in there, too.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Marvel will be happy to be mixing properties, but I like your lineup.
Mystique and Zemo from Marvel.
That's true. That's true.
So Marvel and DC
Nice.
battling.
Fisting each other.
Each other. It was like there's some show that's on. I don't know what it's on. It's like Hulu, Amazon, or whatever. And I've seen little ads for it where a girl comes in and goes, "Kristen Bell just fisted me," and like they're like, "What?" And she goes, "I told Kristen Bell my idea, and she did this to me," like shaking her fist or whatever. And he goes, "I think there's another name for that. So what else would you call it?" Don't know what the show was called. Anyway, that's going to do it for this SinCast. Please keep going to SoundCloud and giving us your thoughts.
We're almost at the end of the tournament. It's been a long, fun trip. We got other ideas, don't worry. But send us your bracket picks. We got a couple of them. In fact, in the last episode on SoundCloud, people were talking about how accurate they lined up and how one person was just completely fucked, but they were still enjoying it. So, let us know, man. Keep them coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll do it for the SinCast this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
I saw this movie the other day called Rapture Palooza, and it's not worth watching. I'm only bringing it up because this one part, every time I remember it, makes me giggle uncontrollably. But it's got a lot of big people in it. Anna Kendrick's in it. Craig Robinson plays the Antichrist. And it's a comedy set after the rapture. And it opens with this narration of Anna Kendrick saying, some of the things the Bible predicted after the rapture, they got correct. And it's like raining blood and whatnot. And some of the things they didn't get correct or didn't even predict at all. And the thing that makes me laugh is the locusts. Just an annoyance. They're like 3 times the size of normal locusts. And they have like Yoga Hoser's cartoon faces on them. And all they do is chase the humans around yelling, "Suffer! Suffer! Suffer!" And it pops up 2 or 3 times where there's a scene going on, you can't even see a goddamn locust, and from the bottom left of the screen you hear "Suffer!" It's really funny. And like the movie itself was kind of a letdown. Ken Jeong shows up at the end as God to fight Craig Robinson. I guarantee you when you look it up, you're going to see like 12 names you recognize in this movie. Because I remember thinking, why did they all agree to do it? Like, which one did they land first for a kind of a mediocre comedy?
Rob Corddry, Anna Gasteyer, John Michael Higgins, Thomas Lennon, Ken Jeong.
That's a lot of good people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Paul Scheer.
It has its moments, but it's not like I was wanting to rave about the movie just as much as that one joke was really good.
It doesn't say that Thomas Middleditch is in it.
Maybe he's not. Maybe I just watched too much Silicon Valley lately.
It's crazy because Craig Robinson was in This Is the End.
Yeah.
And I guess.
Yeah. But just the little locust screaming "Suffer" stays with me. Every time I remember it, I've started doing it to my wife, and I had to like explain the whole thing to her because otherwise it's just me yelling "Suffer" for no reason. I watched that marathon on Saturday of season 3.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole bit about the eggs killed me all over again. It's like, I don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. Well, 3% of them are born either mutated or dead. But
That's Zach Woods saying that, right?
yeah.
He's
by
always.
far my favorite.
Oh my god, he's so great.
He's my new favorite. He's probably my favorite comedy TV show character since maybe Niles.
Yeah,
Like he's that good.
Yeah.
He makes that show for me.
well,
I love
a lot of it is improv too. He
Yeah.
just comes up with that shit.
Yeah, like the shit about finding his birth dad. And he's always throwing in these odd non sequiturs.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that time that I lived in my car for 6 months. What?
I did watch. Did you see Cafe Society yet?
No, I have it in there though. I haven't seen it.
Man.
Is it good?
Well, okay. So it's like a period setting, like old Hollywood and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Carell is playing the big wig, and Jesse Eisenberg is playing the Woody Allen character.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's playing the Woody Allen character. So you take the most annoying parts of the Woody Allen character
Oh, no.
and the most annoying parts of Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh my god.
Put them together.
Oh my god.
Is Kristen Stewart in that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
God, they like working together, don't they?
I think
Kristen
they
Stewart
must.
and Jesse
They've
Eisenberg.
done
Well,
like 3 films together.
Mhm.
She
they were in
is
Adventureland.
Yeah, she's.
Adventureland.
They were in the American Ultra.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Was that any good?
I haven't. This is another one I got.
I've seen it.
You've got a prejudice against Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
It's got a
Kristen
fucking
Stewart.
great premise. When I saw that trailer, I was like, somebody should have made this movie already. This is a great idea, but it didn't get very good reviews. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten around to it.
I still haven't seen it. I have seen a lot of like, just random movies that came out in the past year though, because I got their I got the Blu-ray or whatever, and I'm like, I'll just take a look at that before I go to sleep or whatever, and it's, there's some. I mean, I've seen a lot of fucking movies lately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when somebody asks me like, "Is there anything good out?" I'm like, "Well, I haven't seen anything in the theater since Kong. I don't think." But I've seen stuff at Belcourt,
Uh-huh.
and I've seen a bunch of stuff at Belcourt. But like, I've seen like all these 2016 straggler movies, like Nerve and Blair Witch and Neon Demon and there's like a bunch. I've just like,
Who did Neon Demon? Is that
that's
Nicholas Winding
Nicholas
Refn?
Winding
Refn? A bunch of consonants.
Yeah, that is a fucked up movie.
Is it really?
Yeah, man. It's Elle Fanning, and she's like this demure, innocent model, would-be model or whatever, and she.
Oh, I remember this trailer.
Yeah, and she
Great trailer.
and she runs. She's like basically going like. Her first shoot or whatever, everybody's like, there's just something about her, like they can't quite put the finger on it or whatever. But she keeps running in it. She runs with this model crowd, and there's like people who have obviously ascended much higher than her, and they're like awful people and everything. And it's sort of like one of those, can you keep your innocence as you rise through the ranks of something as, vain as this and everything. But it's just a real dark.
It looks dark as shit, man.
I watched 2 movies back to back that had the words aberrant in the rating. I saw The Green Inferno.
It's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's just gore for the sake of gore.
It really is.
It's aberrant.
That one girl's pretty,
it's
though.
weird. Yeah, it's weird though. I kind of dug it in a way.
Yeah.
It's not good. Don't get me wrong. But I was like sitting there going, hey, you know what? I can kind of get on board with this. It's really fucking gory to a ridiculous degree. But like, yeah, in the rating, it's like an aberrant death scene or murder or something like that. And I was like,
one of the dismembering.
it's that one. Yeah, you'll know it when you see it.
It's aberrant as shit.
It's like when you see something like that, you're like, I wonder what they mean by the
yeah.
And so the Neon Demon has an aberrant sex scene in it, and I was like, okay. And so like, and it's like, okay. It's not going to be Elle Fanning that's involved with this. So I think she's like 16 or 17 or whatever when she's doing this movie. And then I was like, well, maybe it'll be one of these models that they're telling. No, there's something with Jenna Malone in there where, who just randomly pops up in the like how she does now these days. And yeah, you put your thumb up now. Even in sarcastic mode, you're like, even if you're the biggest Jenna Malone fan in the world, you will not find it sexy at all. But I watched them back to back. They both had aberrant in the
That's pretty
rating. I
funny.
was like, and yeah, it was the same thing. I was like, when is this ever? Oh, that's what they were talking about.
Suffer! My wife was like, that trailer came on the other day, and she was like, hey, have you seen this trailer? I was like, yes. She's like, what do you think? And I was like, I think it looks pretty stupid. She's like, why? It's got Tom Hanks and Emma Watson. And I was like, any movie that has tried to do this conspiracy of information technology thing has failed. And I'm going to need to see one before I go, oh, yeah, okay, that's good.
Did you like Enemy of the State?
Well, yes, for what it is, but I don't think that was as much IT and software as this is going to be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't rampant abuse of privacy on anyone except Will Smith, right? They weren't like surveilling everyone. They were just after this one package. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
He's Bruce Wayne, and he's eating her. Oh my God! You know what? That's racist against the guy who has 3 thumbs in this.
Well,
race.
I was thinking about that frostbite incident you had, and I remembered you actually kept both your thumbs from that. So you do have 6.
Yeah.
We were just watching For the Love of the Game, or For Love of the Game, where Costner has that bandsaw accident.
Oh, yeah.
Slices off
Oh my God, yeah. It looks like he's coming from the movie Fargo. Because it's a snowy scene. He's like in shock or something. He's like, hey, check me out in my bloody stump, Kelly Preston. There's a...
That's what happens when you gesture with the battery.
That's right. That's one of those moments where you're just talking and you're like, I don't know what to say. And you say something worse.
Suffer!